tune them can't done in all the morning song I sing same here. Big respect to Uncle Marky in I play sing. Dance song. Big respect to Chronicle Day in our world because of you are a general. We got mother name Nana, my granny name Peggy because of the thing large. You, na 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 na. I grew up in a place called La Vega, Spanish town rocking, over praise and over Lord of mercy. I grew up in a place called some city, Spanish town groovy. When we play a murderation, hey, well, me say, oh, them a go on like say they no rate the king. What them a do? Me say, oh, them a go on like say they no rate the king. What me go do? Rise the ark of the covenant with the cherubim. What me go do? Tell some artists watch the songs where them a sing. What them go do? Grab the mic and answer this song kissing. What me go do? Sing some songs of praises and thanksgiving in at the tabernacle where they bring him and living. Side Selassie on the throne and Vatican try kill him again. Just like in the beginning. Yes, there ain't no giving in and there ain't no winning in the Armageddon for Babylon. This time we're killing them, we're drumming and the singing in the tabernacle, filling up the earth with positive vibes. I listen, Lassie is my counsel and my backative. The love and all the praises are to him, then not to give him. Teach I over show compassion, him teach I to forgive, and teach I over burn down Babylon to ashes. If them try to start the positivity, come with them negativity, fighting the reality. We burn them hypocrisy and them fake sensitivity. For true, we have true from now till the morning. Ace. I grew up in a place called La Vega, Spanish town rocking, over praise and over. Tell them again, I grew up in a place called in some city, Spanish town groovy. When we play, everybody nice. Yeah, German, Spanish town, me born, that's where me come from. Looking at my face is part of the La Vegan. Well, I circle Max with Glazer and Federation. Strictly roots and culture, play pan ice station. So if you're happy and you love it, beg you push up your hand. Come, Bambele Bang Chiroba double original. Neighbor sing cut over Spanish Town Hospital. To me, mama name nan Spanish Town original. Papa name Chronicle Spanish Town original. Granny name Peggy Spanish Town original. And them a call her sticker cause she don't normal. For your grandson Chronic such a field marshal. If I dance all school we are the principal. And now we are the real microphone of visual. Give them a new style. Well if I don't play to we sing because we dub's critical. Sound boy tested we keep the funeral. Me read my Bible every day. And so sing friends them never play, no. Original Chronics representing from prison over. Tell them Mr. Chronics, you're the real sound killer. And from your mouth you just affect them like a chiller. Go and let them know that you have the key to kill a sound anywhere and any day. You know say not the jet will never play. Oh baby, from them test and not the jet and then oh baby. No other song could test and not the jet. We kill them softly. Cause reggae music is the best. We lay some song down, lay them to rest. Go and let them know you're the real sound killer. a bounty killer. Ace! Big respect to Rodney Price. Big respect to the one called Shabba Ranks, cause you're the real godfather anyway then of the world, and you set it. Big respect to Super Cat, big respect to Buju Banton, cause you set it. Saying, big respect to Luciano, Lady Sam. Big respect to Spice, cause you set it. See, big respect to Vibes Cartel and the one called Mavada, because of them set it for I and I. In a dancehall style. Big respect to the one them call Peter Man and Bounty Killer, because of them set it for everyone. Big up the whole alliance, big up the whole crew. Say, how can I big up everybody enough? Cause you know still have to big up EcoJam, who is the greatest. And them said the thing. Say, I say this is the voice of the original Chronics from Spanish Town, a long talking. Big up self-chronicling the end of the world. Gear mine, don't say the next word neither. Leopard, Lieutenant Brooksy, our Spanish Town crew. Peace. I dance all with them and them think I joke thing. I say big up all of you them right now. I say Chronic Cloud, big up all 6. See, I say big up Javelin, big up all Wild Side. I say big up the whole of dancer and the end of the world. They don't know say I will not set it right now. See, big respect to all the one called Kabaka Pyramid. Big respect to Proud J, the whole Habitat family. See, big respect to Jazzy Lease. Big respect to man like Tyrese, Universal. Big respect to the one them named JLL, Scene, SOS Dynamic, Teflon, Zinfence Production, and the end of the world. Say, original Chronics in our dance, I'll have big up everybody, you know. At the vote of thanks, this, you know, this is part which part of the show, and name them go up at the ear. Peace! Showdown, name going up in the air. All these names, nobody can complain. Freddie McGregor, brother one called Barry Saman, cause you set it in the singing realms. See, Dennis Brown, the father of all fathers of singers. Bunny Ruggs, they don't know say how you will love when it comes to singing every day in the world. Respect to Desmond Decker and the great godfather Toots. Saying, you can big up people from now to the man. Big up Sarah, big up Steve McGregor, big up Dan Collin, big up the whole massive and crew. See, I wish Bobby Digital, he was a living angel. Anywhere they know the world, I use set reggae music left, right, and center. We respect to King Jammy, saying, respect to Master Griffiths and Judy Mott, because they don't know that them set in a singing word. Big respect to the great Rita Marley, because they don't know say you're singing angel. Make sure to put them part up on a different part of the show, because I want everybody to say, saying, Ace! Big respect to one called Damon Marley and Steve Marley and Kimani Marley and all the brothers of all the sons of great Bob Marley and the daughters, saying, God, the world are great. Remember this. I always say big respect to everybody, you know. You can't big respect to that man, you know. And then still can't stop big respect, you know. Big respect to Rolly Fresh and in the world. Saying, respect Baxi. Respect Super, all engineer, worldwide. I know how we start big up engineer. Let me start big up engineer, you know. Saying, Ace. I say me 10 stepper ahead of them, 10 stepper. Tell them I now, philosophy I federal, Rasta we a fight war spiritual. Hey, welcome Chronic the general. Watch out. Step in at the war, make a entry. Winnings me innings, Chronics make a century. Steam chalice, we have the better sense. Better than we have parental plenty. Babylon, them a free man in the city. Yet we find out them a demon in the city. When it all boil down to the deep and nitty-gritty. See it clear, them mix up in a iniquity. Stepping at the wild back the field with the pagan and a sprinkle. I'll have me feet and I want to see I spend Kyle and me seat. But see I see I'm a me guide and me shield. Hey, them a free man in the city. Yet we find out them a demon in the city. When it all boil down to the deep and nitty-gritty. See it clear, them mix up in a iniquity. Drop over evil, right for me heart. Babylon afraid when they give me and start. Man a worry about. Tell them man a worry about. Full suit of armor, sword in a hand, ready to go turn down dirty Babylon. Man a warrior boy, tell them man a warrior boy. Ah boy, never want forever burning. And you see when the tables turn, me say I love her, I and I preach it. So every land of hate will burn. I was there when the ships came and chastised in a Jesus' name. Wonder if me crazy, wonder if me sane, but the whole of Rome a go up in a flame. And no nothing see me walk in a room and start a fire, start a fire. And I know nothing see me walk in a room and start a fire, start a fire. Why them a wonder how a little African I go burn down me whole in a Vatican, but I know nothing see me walk in a room, start a fire, start a fire. If you go home, the whole demography. And when me talk, I mean no hypocritic. When me say Rome, I eat no geography. But if I you feel wear the cap, then I you will have it. When me say Rome, me a talk about lion. I you see Lassie, I the power of the giant. The eagle and the dragon and the bear a spit fire, but them can't overthrow the conquering lion. Listen to the voice of the people. Today Rome will burn, and not me alone. As a over evil, said today Rome will burn. No nothing see me walk in a room and start a fire, start a fire. Yes, no nothing see me walk in a room and start a fire. I mean I know how me survive the hardship in you. Life never sweet like a chocolate vanilla. Chain line me born, me no born in a villa. Little monkey watch how you a talk to gorilla car. She government buy arms give the killer. Two party a flex like a party them in. Accepting presents from foreign government. We still a fool them and a school them and cocky them in. Good God of Moses and Bradley the killer. Poor people fed up and we can't simmer. Can hardly survive as a blasted singer. Much less a baller who is a brought to the winner. Have a right foot like a David Villa. The mother still a sell in a market. The jam rock is a precious stone. Still it's far from a diamond. Take it from Iman. Window Jamaica night. You gotta live to save your life. After the sunset comes the darkness of the night. Yeah. Better open up your eyes. You got to read between the lines. Living in the ghetto paradise. Yeah. Contradiction global. The madness taking over. Too much man in a mix up. One bag a mix up. Rasta and himself.
Contradiction global. Still good conquer evil. David still slug Goliath. Make one wall of vibe, yeah. Too many idolize badness and slackness. Island in the sun just falling in a darkness. One love and one heart where the heart there. Nowadays you no cool if you no heartless. Flashy with a 9 like you lawless. Like justice I buy out a wallet. Well, that a 6 for a 9 and a 9. You know the waste then a sentence to life car.
Contradiction global. A madness taking over. Too much man in a mix up. One bag a mix up. Rasta and himself.
Contradiction global. Still good conquer evil. David still slug Goliath. Make one wall of vibe, yeah.
No take telling, want me no fi say this. When we see your farm and gone in and you lettuce. People mean your harm, you can't tell what a friend is. Got you for your paper, scorn you for your pennies. When you no see me gone to get replenished. Back up in the morning, can't forget the message, no. Avocado, she feel for me, senny. Yeah, man, banana is sweet to she belly. Jeez, I want make life sweet, so like a jelly. Climb feet, it hard, can't easy, so forget it. Sang the pan the radio, video pan the telly. Love in me heart, me a spread the catchy medi.
People of people, expectation. Will they love you? No guarantee. People of people, salvation, need salvation. Will they save you? No guarantee. Remember I tell you, blessed is the man, blessed is Selassie. Remember I tell you, blessed is the man, blessed is Selassie.
I
Ethiopia stretched forth her hands and gave us the Redeemer of all man, defender of the faith, and Ethiopian is the captain, the chief field marshal sergeant. Bowing at his feet, 72 nation, Rasmakonen was crowned conquering lion. A Baba Janai, father of Africans, with Empress men, and I stand at his right hand. Meanwhile, in a Jamaica land, holy trial and tribulation, chastisement was upon all African. Bustamante say kill all Rastaman. What kind of Selassie that to do a call pan? Trim them and bring the whole of them a station. Never in the name of my King of England will I ever live to see the Rastaman redemption. But when the 2-6 clash, that's when the plane land. King of all kings touch down in Kingston. Would you believe? So said, so done. Bustamante blind couldn't see when the king come. Some of them they for me see, some of them dumb when they rise up against Haile Selassie kingdom. You politician with your evil agenda. Anyhow you this, just remember I remember. Blessed is the man. Blessed is Selassie. Remember I tell you. Blessed is the man. Blessed is Selassie. Jah gravel, I no stumble, no baffle.
1 2, mic check 1 2 2.
I am strong and be happy, but no laugh with nobody.
Mic check 1.
I see love, see so
1 2, mic check 1.
Well, it's confirmed, but me just up in a me khaki suit. You're not gonna find me a gilafi. Peace soup in a war with me troops in a war. None of them can take Rastafi claffy. I me no worry, when me a worry myself. Me see a fiend a Jah warrior shelter. Stand firm like Iraq or Gibraltar. None of them now go if you see Jah warrior falter.
Mic check 1 2 2 1 2, mic check.
I see so damn.
Are we a back them now?
I am strong and be happy, but no love with nobody. I am Selassie so damn.
I don't tell them I'm a warrior, so leave me be. Me no itch up on me, other watch TV screens. Me dep on the front line.
Mic check 1 2.
I'm an up to take responsibility for me actions, me objectives and me nouns too. Make a wrong step and see how quick them denounce you. But I still see I federal, me happy side separal means for me it's them surround you. All Ethiopia me happy there. Move fast like Bobo on a Saturday. Nappy head, khaki suit, happy patchy leg. This ya Apache, ya inbound as a natty dread.
Jah gravel, I no stumble, no baffle, I Selassie so damn. I am strong and be happy, but no laugh with nobody. I see so damn.
Let them know I am armed in army gear. 4 stripes for my arm is clear. So hang on, I no have no fear. Them woulda see me embalm, but a jaw on me arm out here. Coulda you name Osama, this arm appear. Them a we up in a remand, a demand my sheer. From Jamaica to Ghana, every square inch, every corner, every crevice catchy message. We carry the fire, eat up like the Mojave. Then unpick the arm if they contradict Mugabe. From the land of freedom, fighters, readers, writers, highly the king shall guide us.
Jah gravel, I no stumble, no baffle, I Selassie so damn. I am strong and be happy, but no laugh with nobody. I Selassie so damn.
Rastafari opposing, it's a call of duty, absolutely. Stand up for what's right, excuse me. Have you thinking faster? You're right, I'm the master. You must be stupid to think that I'm a lamb to the slaughter. Hold up, push on wickedness, get up, push on. I know you're evil, you didn't spend the time to reach a book and hear them a plug with them psalms, so them a fight when me laugh, so I see in my head, I love it on me heart.
Jah gravel, I no stumble, no baffle, I Selassie so damn.
Envy and don't despise the poor. Respect yourself for sure. And shall we open our all the doors, and you will settle scores. And the way, and don't despise the poor. Respect yourself for sure, and Jah will open all the doors. Always remember to be faithful. When Jah bless you in that life, you be grateful. And never diss the man will make you playful. But this loyalty are ungrateful. Get so youth, me tell you to be careful. Anytime you give, just be cheerful. Babylon no love to see you able. Some me burn the werewolf. And the weak, and don't despise the poor. Respect yourself for sure. And Jah will open all the doors, and you will set the scores. And the weak, and don't despise the poor. Respect yourself for sure. And Jah will open all the doors. Alright.
Give an helping hand to your brother man. If we suffer, make we suffer as one. If you know we're better, then cover and conquer. The ghetto you just suffer and you got that too long. Give an helping hand to your sisters, yeah. See I'm struggling, we are fight worldwide. Only the power of love make humanity survive. All praises be to Rastafari. He grant us wisdom, love and understanding. May the kindness and compassion in me flow. Cause when Jah love is pouring out, I know the pagans going down. Jah love pouring out, Rastafari. Jah will supply all you need, yeah. Burning all the envy and greed. I know the roads of Rastafari could never be seen. You got to know, you can't believe. Me say me never give up. Rastafari never leave. I do. So even when the road get rocky, me say me never give up. I said there ain't no giving in. And when the going get tough, I said the tough get going. My people, don't give up. I said there ain't no giving in, no. Rastafari guide I and I from the beginning. Oh, A lot of youths in life say them can't take the pressure no more. But from your trust in the most high life, I go get better, I'm sure. The youth juggle on the roadside, Babylon say fi take up your bag and way. Boy, but we still not give up. Me say we solid as a rock like Kalanje. Not give up. I said there ain't no giving in. And when the going get tough, I said the tough gets going. One juggle your fruits, don't give up. I said there ain't no giving in, mama. Rastafari guide I and I from the beginning. Hey. Don't you be silly. He's a dreadlocks man, traveling in Kingston City with a guitar in his hand. Don't you be foolish. Music doesn't pay. What can you do for me? And this is what he said. Put on your dancing shoes. I come to play some roots. And can you feel the groove? I come to play some roots. It's like ba ba boo, 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 ba ba boo. I come to play some roots. You don't understand it. She's a lioness, graduated from college, just trying to do her best. They say, don't you be funny. Hey, music doesn't pay. How you gonna make a little money? And this is what she say. I gotta play some roots. Put on your dancing shoes. I come to play some roots, boy. Put on your dancing shoes. Like Baba Boo, Baba Boo, Baba Boo, Baba Boo, Baba Boo, Baba Boo, Baba Boo. Give me the one drop beat and a mind. Let me talk from me heart and not pretend, yeah. I love free, I and I, with AIDS. I just love me defend. Me say love, it is the key to uplift mankind. And me say love, it is a gift from the center divine. Me tell you, love like sand on a seashore, stronger than any seafood. Keep your love in your heart, stay on the righteous path. I beg you, please don't detour. I miss a love and patience, fly over crows and ravens. Children are dying, no one go save them. Chant a psalm, say a prayer, seal a amen. One drop beat and a mind. Let me talk from my heart and not pretend me pretend. Listen me no daughter. Listen. I know you're tired of the stress and the strain and the city life. Come make we drink jelly water. Yes, I. Darling, make we make another escape from the hustle and the bustle tonight. And I don't know where you wanna go, but I'm willing to take you there. Girl, just be who you wanna be. Once you're with me, baby, have no fear. So much beautiful things to see. Girl, don't waste a life. And there is only one love to give. Girl, we now waste no time. And I don't know if I beach or if I riverside. Hey, but I wanna take you somewhere tonight. And I don't know if I beach or if I riverside. Hey, and I don't know if I hill or valley. But I beg you come chill with grannies. Life has its way of turning the gray skies blue. Oh yeah. But sometimes the skies
all that gal them
tumbling down on
make some noise, yeah. Greetings to all viewers, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're via Zoom, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EcoJam, the Enviro-Art Forum, brought to you by students at Edinburgh College in the course called Arts, Culture, and the Environment. My name is Owen Blacker Ellis, and I have the honor of being a lecturer for this dynamic course that looks at the intersection between cultural practice, art creation, and the environment. This is EcoJam 2021. And we're going to have a wonderful time just engaging with the whole idea, the whole concept of sustainable art practice and eco-friendly cultural living. This is EcoJam 2021. I want to start by inviting the Dean of the School of Arts, Management and Humanities, Dr. Kino Senior, to bring you special greetings. Dr. Senior, over to you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Ellis. Good afternoon, friends, colleagues, and students of the
We think you're muted, Dr. Senior.
Are you hearing?
Oh.
Okay, good afternoon, friends, colleagues, and students of the Edinburgh College community. I am happy to have been asked to bring opening remarks at this year's virtual staging of EcoJam. The School of Arts Management and Humanities believes that students learn best when they are actively engaged in co-creating in an environment that places their academic development within a cultural, social, ethical, and artistic. This is true of the EcoJam initiative. The EcoJam initiative is a component of the Arts, Culture, and Environment course, as Mr. Ellis indicated earlier. This course, in general, aims to advance students' understanding of environmental concerns and the implications these hold for the work of arts managers, visual and performing artists, designers, and technicians, and just about anyone working in the cultural and creative industries. Special acknowledgement must be given to Mr. Owen Ellis, lecturer of this course, for his wonderful initiative and the guidance he has provided for his students. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Senior. Again, I just want to welcome all our viewers who are joining us, our global family. People are joining us, I know right now, from Toronto, from all areas of Jamaica, and via various platforms. This is really a student-led event. I've just been given a script and given my instruction by the students. They are in charge. And we're gonna spend this evening, this afternoon, engaging in a variety of ways, through panels, through performances, through conversation, looking at this really dynamic concept of the intersection between arts, culture, and the environment. So now we'll just hear from remarks from one of the students who's actually behind planning this event. And now I'm going to turn things over to student Mr. Gavin Gatti to bring you his remarks. Gavin Gatti, over to you, sir.
I'm very nervous. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. My name is Gavin Gatti, and I'm a first-year arts management student from the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. At the college, when selecting your courses for the semester, you have an option to select an elective. In this regard, I chose Arts, Culture, and Environment, a course taught by Mr. Ellis, who is also our host. In studying this course, my classmates and I delved into numerous topics relating to arts and culture and sought to establish connection between those areas and the environment. We were often challenged to self-reflect and exercise agency with regards to things that we can change, like our carbon footprint, our relationship to the ocean, as well as to offer creative responses to environmental threats. In addition to our class discussions, we have been tasked with assignments, one of which was to conceptualize the content for this year's EcoJam Enviro-Art Forum. Pre-COVID, students would set up booths on campus and display coursework that they have done throughout the semester. However, due to the current circumstances, we have decided to stage the event in a virtual space. For several weeks, we have been planning and coordinating the various moving parts required to execute the event, even with the COVID restrictions. This has been accomplished with the support of One Creative Yard, the student-led arts management company here at the Edna Manley College. We thank you all for joining us in this virtual space as we engage, educate, and entertain you all for the sake of our environment. Please do enjoy our event. Thank you.
We're jamming. This is Black Eco jamming with you. Hey, we're jamming. And I hope you like Eco jamming too. Yeah, Enviro-Art. What exactly is environmental art? What exactly is arts-based environmental study? And when we talk about environment in Jamaica, there are certain key issues that people get very turned on about arguing about. And I just wanted to remind that the issues that we're going to look at this afternoon include Cockpit Country and Blue Mountain. Blue Mountain is not just coffee, and Cockpit Country is not just a hole somewhere. So just have a quick of a short film on mining in the Cockpit Country. This is EcoJam 2021.
Big true.
The trees will regenerate. When you go in with an extractive industry like mining, once you change the physical shape of the landscape, the limestone as well as the bauxite soils, it will never come back.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But my hand was made strong.
No human being was supposed to go over that camp. It is when the bird bamboos and what should run over there. Quick steps, the cockpit, my birthland. We are loving people.
Triumphantly, won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Is all I ever.
Hi, welcome back. We, as you have obviously recognized, we've had a few technical hitches, but we have fixed the glitches. So we're going to just rejoin the video right now. Thank you so much.
This pit is here about 2 months ago. Before the pit was here, it was a flat place. Would walk across.
So why you're gonna destroy? You're gonna destroy the water. You're gonna destroy the birds. You're gonna destroy the environment. It don't make no sense. But a few little job what you're gonna get. You already deteriorate the place already.
Yeah, I have a man. I love it. I love it up here.
It's a beauty. You know, people don't seem to realize how important it is to farm. I would hate to know that the mining is being done here. It would take away from us all that we have. We talk about Usain Bolt. That they say he runs so fast because of the yellow. And you're going to kill him. So there won't be no more Usain Bolt, right? Nobody likes him because there won't be no more jobs. Right, sir?
Anyone with ecological knowledge would say there's absolutely no way you would ever allow bauxite mining to take place under this area of special mining lease 173. I mean, it's like a little mini Amazon forest in terms of creating its own microclimate. So if bauxite mining comes into Rio Bueno, it's not going to just affect Rio Bueno. It has the potential to affect everything downwind of what's happening. And we actually don't know exactly what's going to happen. You will irreversibly change it and you cannot put it back. Someone cuts down a few trees to do some farming, the trees will regenerate. When you go in with an extractive industry like mining, once you change the physical shape of the landscape, the limestone as well as the bauxite soils, it will never come back.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong.
No human being was supposed to go over that camp. It is when the bird mongoose and what children over there. Quick them, the cockpit, my birdland. We are loving people.
Triumphantly, won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Is all I ever had.
The Redemption songs. Will you join us in this EcoJam from Negril Point to Morant Point, this little land that we call Jamaica? Once you're breathing the air, you ought to care about what happens in our natural atmosphere. This is EcoJam 2021. So as we look into the issues that really concern us, as we think about the environment and how it impacts our ability to create art and live our cultural practices, we'll now hear from a man who's very involved in one of the key issues. He's Mr. Hugh Dixon, chairman of the Southern Trelawney Environmental Agency. Hugh Dixon, let's engage with you.
Good afternoon. I hope you're hearing me. Okay. Let me say thank you very much for asking me to participate in this evening's effort at the Edna Manley School. I recognize you have some challenges, but I'll try my best and hope you're hearing me. Thanks again, Mr. Ellis, for introducing me. Well, I'm here and I'm speaking to you from Cockpit Country, which you saw that video clip on, and you have pretty much the background. Basically, to complement the video you saw and to keep it in context of your theme and what you're trying to present there. Cockpit Country is part of the spinal ridge of Jamaica, and it emerged out of the sea some 15 million years ago. What makes it special in the central west section of the island is that the limestone which came up in that section was predominantly white limestone. The rest of the island tends to have a lot of yellow limestone, and the geology of it is something you can check out. But the uniqueness of Cockpit Country came about because we have low bandwidth. Again, yeah, this contiguous spread of white limestone in this section gave us a unique topography within that area, where you have, as a result of the weathering, conical hillocks that if you had a 30 flat egg tray and flipped it upside down, what you look at is essentially what the topography of Cockpit Country looks like, with a number of conical hillocks. It's projected that there could have been about 5,000 of them in that area that you saw, some 900 square kilometers of landmass. And down below it is the plains where the sugar plantation would have been, and where the plantation owners in the slavery period and during the colonial era would have operated and been exported and producing sugar. And many of us who came across the Atlantic from West Africa would have landed here, and by the time we came from the hulls of the ships, we would have saw the landscape that looked very much like West Africa. Some went on the plantations, others took off to these hills of Cockpit Country and settled there, and others joined us as they escaped or had their rebellions on the flats on the sugarcane plantation. My brothers and sisters, the artistic imagery of Cockpit Country is maybe one of the special features of it, because you saw on that footage the kind of people who live in the 66 communities that buffer Cockpit Country. And you see their production, you hear them speak of the productivity of yams and the ability of the fertile soils here to be productive. What's significant, so Susan Koenig telling you about the sensitivity of this ecosystem called Cockpit Country. And because of that, we have wanted it to be preserved for several things. Let me mention a few. There is the biological diversity of the area, where some 1,500 of the rare and endemic plant species are found here in Cockpit Country in this particular area defined. And they make for a special impact of Jamaica's imagery abroad. It supports us here. They have medicinal qualities in some of these plants that these who occupied this space over time have been using in medicinal preparations. Some of them are only found here in the Cockpit Country and nowhere else on the island and nowhere else in the world. So we have that from the biological diversity. Then the area hosts some 5 watersheds. Places like the Martha Brae, the Black River, the Great River are just an example of water systems that serve the nation and represent 40% of our fresh groundwater that is available to us. As a result, we have been clamoring to protect this area because of its geological significance with the white limestone and the unique ecology, the fact that in the history, the Maroons occupied this, and we have a compound and many other communities on the periphery that are Maroon communities and representatives of the 1738 treaty and the freedom given to people to occupy these spaces. And then there is the water that it produces for the nation, for tourism sector, and for the productivity of the nation, and for the 73,000 people that live here. So when you think of it, the Cockpit Country has a lot to offer because of the sustainability it gives for all of us who live here, not just here in Cockpit Country, but the many industries that it serves, tourism being one, the water that it supplies to the manufacturing sector in the West, and the fact that people earn a living from agricultural production, which is done on the very fertile soils. The significance of its beauty, the waterfalls, the plant life, the framing of the hillocks, the beauty of the culture and the people and their traditions are one of the great features that make it saleable for its natural condition and makes it a place of reference for people who have an artistic sense of themselves and their nation and want to preserve it and want to project it and want to give it the significance that it deserves on a global scale, as Jamaica is known for. In that context, therefore, I can see the link between the culture of the area, the artistic possibilities, just by virtue of how we live here, and the environmental significance of that in supporting all of that and making it come real. But, and with a big but, the cockpit country is the last remaining site in Jamaica for bauxite deposits. And the Jamaican state has agreed to mine bauxite out, export it to Louisiana, and make it into aluminum for the interest of corporate persons who have no sense and interest in our struggles, in the people who live here, in our water supply, and in the sustainability of a small island state, Jamaica, and not even to recognize and respect the significance of the likes of a Usain Bolt who comes from Sherwood Content, Rex Nettleford who comes from Bunkers Hill, and the rest of us that live and have contributed locally and globally and need to preserve this spot for what it means for our continuity. It is therefore, and I close by saying, critically necessary for all listening, all viewing to have an interest in this area, because as Jamaica, as the backbone, as a critical part of the spinal ridge of Jamaica, and we know the value of a spine in the human body. If we destroy this last reference point of our culture, our heritage, or hydrological significance for water supply to the island, if we destroy this for the agricultural production and the yam, which, as one person in the video said, made Usain Bolt run and which generates $32 million in revenue to Jamaica for its export, and where the best quality comes from here in the cockpit country, we will lose a significant sense of ourselves. We will destroy a lot of what is us, and we will lose the culture, the environment, and the art that comes from here just by viewing it. So I use that to lend my words to the video you saw. It might not have been very clear, and I hope I got the chance for you to be hearing me. And I appreciate the fact that I had the chance to participate in this way. And I welcome the students and the School of Art through this medium to participate going forward in advocating for the protection of this in the context of your theme for today. Thank you very much.
Indeed. So whether you're in the comfort of your Upper St. Andrew apartment complex or up on the gully side, across the Gaza, now the inner city, wherever you are in Jamaica, the cockpit country, which is the country's spinal ridge of Jamaica, should really concern you, what's happening there. And all I can say is what the backside wrong with some people, but they can't get it. Anyway, let's have a look at the cockpit country. Let's go up in the mountain. As Miss Lou sang that great Jamaican folk song, we da walk pa mountain, da walk pa mountain, da walk pa mountain side. Let's check with Mr. David Walters, who is park manager of the Jamaica Conservation Development Trust. Checking the issue, cockpit country, Blue Mountain. Have a look at EcoJam 2021.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. Unfortunately, I'm not. I don't have the luxury today of speaking from the magical environment of the Blue Mountains. I am at home, not doing too well today, a little bit sick. But I thought it important to still try to hop on and share the importance and the significance of the Blue Mountains. So what I'm going to do is speak briefly about the value of the Blue Mountains, and I want to talk a little bit about the management. So again, for an introduction, my name is David Walters. I am the National Park Manager at the Jamaica Conservation and Development Trust. My organization is primarily concerned with the Blue Mountains, and we have this management mandate to protect the space that is the Blue Mountains. But first off, before getting into the management issues and so on, and like how we do it, I'd like to share some ideas about the value of the space. And I'm gonna ask the host if he could allow me to share my screen. I have a short presentation to share. The screen sharing is currently disabled. Just waiting for that to happen. All right, it's not happening, so I'm gonna continue speaking. Hopefully the screen sharing will be enabled sometime soon, so I'll be able to share some imagery and so on. But as we talk about value, there are several ways that we can state value and ascribe value to things. We tend to recognize the economic arguments very readily. We understand dollars and cents, but we understand that value is probably more than that. It's not just dollars and cents. Okay, all right, I can share right now. So I'm gonna pause just to get this up and going. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm here. All right, so what I was saying about value is that I'm gonna start by talking about the economic importance of the Blue and Jonquil Mountains. But just to get an idea of what the space is like, it is an area of about 44,000 hectares of tropical cloud forest. It's a unique space, unique environment in Jamaica. It's some of the highest elevations that you will find in Jamaica. Obviously, the Blue Mountain Peak is here as well. Now, we can say various things to allude to the value of the space. First of which is probably the most significant, that it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And this means that it's been internationally recognized for its important cultural and natural resources. So this space is the historic home for some of the Maroons on this side. In the Rio Grande Valley, you'll find historic Maroon communities like Nannytown and even Maroon communities existing today, like Moortown and others. This space has been designated as a national park in Jamaica, and it's the only national park in the island. Oh, why is this space important? 10 of 26 island watershed management units are found in this space. It means that the WR, the Water Resources Authority, they divide up the country into these watershed areas. And you find that in the Blue Mountains, you have almost just about 10 of 26 of the total watersheds in Jamaica. What this means is that most of the eastern section of the island is supplied by water from this space. It has what we call ecosystem services. These are things that the ecosystem provides, obviously, in terms of services. There are several industries that are underpinned by the quality of the space. For example, you have coffee, Blue Mountain coffee. Obviously, everybody knows about that. And the Blue Mountain coffee is unique because of the unique environment that the coffee grows up in. in the Blue Mountains. I'm not an expert on this particular matter, but what I'm hearing is that, or what the research seems to suggest, is that in the shade, the coffee beans ripen more slowly and they make for a better flavor. Not really a big coffee drinker, so I don't really know much about that. But what it does is highlights the importance of the space to be able to produce something as important as Blue Mountain coffee. We have things like pollination services. This area is a key biodiversity area. It means that a wide variety of plants and animal species live here, and they also provide services. Some of the services they provide to the surrounding area is, for example, pollination. So the birds and insects in the space, they move around and pollinate plants, and a lot of these plants are actually cropland, allow them to be productive, just the natural functioning of the ecosystem. There's this big word here about carbon sequestration, that is just being able to pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and put it in the ground. That's important for carbon mitigation services, and it's supposed to help reduce the global warming effect. There's a significant pest control or pest reduction service that is also provided. There was a study done, can't remember the name of the authors right now, but they pretty much looked at a disease called the coffeeberry borer disease that was affecting coffee plants in the area. What they found is that the birds in the area provide natural pest control by eating these insects. And the service of those birds, they were found to be approximately US $310 per hectare. So if you had to apply fertilizer or do the pest management on your own, this is how much it would cost without the birds. So that's a real economic lens to view the importance or the significance of the space. And if we're thinking about national development, we can say that these things are much more important to everyone than whatever extractive industries that may want to challenge the space. So lots of economic valuation to just bring up that this space is really, really important. Just a quick comparison, I'll use this table to show you. We're looking at direct use values versus indirect use values. And if we just look at the water supply, you realize that that value alone is higher than most of the other things that you could do with the space. The water alone is super important as an economic quantity, quantifiable thing. Now that we understand why the space is important, and we understand that it is significant for people as well, it's a magical space, people love hiking. The communities, so many communities have a particular affinity to the space, they depend on the space as well. And now that we understand how important it is, I just want to take us quickly through the actual threats to the forest. Why does it need management? So if you're able to see properly, what's coming into focus here in this video is actually a fire in the mountains. And this was maybe late 2019, early 2020, close to the Blue Mountain Peak. Now, the type of environment, the tropical cloud forest, the fires are not a natural feature of this space. So when fires happen, they really affect the ecosystem. They clear a lot of trees, and the trees have invaluable services, as we just highlighted earlier. Why do these fires happen? Many times people use a technique of slash and burn to try and clear land for agriculture. And it means just lighting an area, and people set fire get from them. But fires are a hard thing to manage. So we have these episodes of fire in the area that threaten the trees and the ecosystems. Some of the other threats to the space include illegal logging, illegal bird shooting. You have people encroaching on the boundary, trying to take some land out of the national park for their own personal use. And we have this idea about invasive species, things that are not native to the space that threatens the local ecosystem as well. If you look at this picture here, you'll see some of our rangers. And we have a ranger corps, and they particularly deal with enforcement and compliance activities. They have confiscated some parrots here. So people have been capturing these parrots, and it's illegal to do so. I think these are yellow-billed parrots. And the rangers have confiscated these on their patrol activities. And the plan is to return them to the wild. Well, they would have already been, because this was some time ago. So how do we actually manage the space? We manage through program areas. We have different things that we find important: natural heritage conservation, cultural heritage conservation. We have a recreation and tourism program, monitoring and evaluation, public education, and governance and administration. So some of these programs take us through a number of activities, things like patrolling the spaces, ensuring that people doing the right things as it relates to the environment. You would see rangers here talking with some local fisher folk to ensure that they're partaking in sustainable practices for fishing. And there are unsustainable practices. That's why we have to monitor these kinds of things. People sometimes poison whole streams in order to fish. So they'll just come with some poison, throw it in the river, everything dies, and then they just pick that up and sell it afterwards. And that's detrimental to health and also the ecosystem health. So rangers patrol these kinds of things. We do a lot of spatial analysis, just looking at maps, plotting offenses, trying to figure out what are the spatial relationships between some of these things that are happening and what we can do about them. So we can respond to things in a more strategic manner and, be a little bit more data-driven. So it's just some ideas about what the maps might look like and how we use them. There's also this idea about GIS, Geographic Information Systems. We use these satellite imageries to try to understand the forest, which areas are primary forest, that means the good original forest, which areas are under threat, which areas are being, threatened by invasive species. So again, it can be more data-driven to say that we have some priority areas based on what we're seeing on the ground. Obviously, I'm not sure if it's so obvious, but the JCDT manages the recreational spaces in the Blue Mountains. These are Halliwell and the Portland Gap cabins. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with those spaces and if you've ever been, but we have recreational experiences that we try to use to supplement management activities. So you can come and camp and stay in a cabin, hike, those kinds of activities for a fee, and those fees go directly into management of the wider space. Just some aerial imagery here of what the recreational area kind of looks like. If you've ever been up to the Blue Mountain Peak, you'll see signs like these guiding you where to go and giving you information along the way. The rangers also partake in these educational experiences by sharing some of their knowledge with people so they can understand the importance of the space. It's not necessarily just to have fun in the space, but it's also an educational opportunity so that they can learn about the space as well. And that's important to note. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Here's one of the cabins and one of the views from Halliwell. Now, as we speak about the opportunities for learning and development for people who visit the spaces, we have to think about how it is that we can change or challenge perceptions about how the space should be used. One of the serious challenges that we have with the Blue Mountains is just people doing the right thing as it relates to the space. People come in, they cut down trees. Sometimes some extensive land use change, they light fires, they do all sorts of things. And these things threaten the integrity of the space from an ecosystem perspective. we do a lot of work to patrol and try to enforce things so that those things will happen, but we have limited capacity. We can't be everywhere all the time. We only have about eight rangers. So one of the things that we try to do is public education, talk to people, teach them about the space. Also, some of the research seems to suggest that me sitting here telling you why the space is important is not necessarily that effective. Now, I am, if I can call myself a scientist, I have a science background, and scientists are notoriously bad at communication. I might be boring people as we speak right now. I probably just don't have the most engaging ways of sharing information, and that is a problem. And when it comes to sustainability and how we manage our environment, it's not exclusively a science problem. It's not exclusively an environmental management problem. It has to do with people as well, and how people behave, and the thinking about the space and livelihoods and economics and lots of other things. So it's a multifaceted problem. It's a complex issue that needs all hands on deck. Now, my primary audience here today, I believe, are artists, and I have no ideas about art, in terms of my own ability or anything like that. But I do understand some things about art that I see can have particular impacts here. As scientists try to bore people with facts and figures, what the researchers note is that if people have positive interactions with the space, if they just like the space, then they will value it better. And it's just about those positive experiences. Art can help to bring about some of those positive experiences about space and how people think about space. It might be through songs that people really like. I know there's a debate now about, well, it's an ongoing debate, but if you're frequent Twitter, you see people pop up a lot and talk about the relative impacts of dancehall music on crime and all sorts of things. Some people say it don't affect anything, some people say it affects things. But we all know the impacts of art. And art can be mobilized to help us to improve environmental behaviors so that people actually care about the space and they will do the right things as it relates to the space. When it comes to other issues like extractive industry that threatens spaces, art can help us to mobilize people and fight against those kinds of things. So we welcome all artists to get on board in the environmental mandate, continue making the art, continue singing songs, and giving powerful images and sound in the attempts to protect spaces. Thank you very much.
Leave the trees and let them grow.
I was gonna bring up this one. But yeah, very, very good example.
Can't you see you're destroying the environment? They pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Yeah, how does the artist play a role in ensuring that we protect our environment? How does the environment impact art creation? How do our cultural practices impact negatively our environment and its sustainability? Thank you, Mr. Dixon, and thank you, Mr. Walters, for really giving us a sense of where some of the issues that are located from Trelawney to Blue Mountain that we also start to care about as we look at the environment and protecting it. This is EcoJam 2021. And now, an art
I'm here with Alex.
Enviro-Art vibe.
We don't know how to close down. Do you know how to close down?
How that may I say too? I agree with you. But you come with something called, yo, you don't know, yeah. So we're going to now have a chance to share in some performance art that speak to the, yeah, big up David Moore. David Moore. Arts-based, performance-based, that speaks to the issues. Let's now check out Remarkable Art Performing Arts Company as they share with you a piece that was made just for this occasion. It's called Mother Earth, and it was made for EcoJam 2021. Here comes Remarkable Arts Performing Arts Group. Enjoy.
And scorched as man continues to charge. We continue a want of speed and ease all while our pesticides on our knees. It's time to wake up and see how the earth's way. Humanity's selfishness is becoming insane. Sweet altitude and man will cause its own gloom. Blue skies on high, stars were bright once they came, now obscured.
Wow. Wow. Powerful and poignant. So, Daniel Kemp, Shamar Howell, Davida Grant, Danique Malcolm, Jada Hamilton, Kerry Chen, and Gavin Gatti are the students in the course who curated, conceptualized, and put this thing together. I'm just here because them like me. And them give me a script and say I must host it for them. They have done the job, and so far it's been very powerful. And it's gonna get even more exciting. It's gonna have now a very engaging panel with some dynamic people to share interesting, inspirational, invigorating ideas that's gonna just get us into contemplating the idea of he, art, culture, and the environment in creative expression. So when we return in a minute's time, you won't see me. You see one of the students, Kerry Chen, who will moderate the panel discussion that I promise you, it's gonna be worth your while. This is EcoJam 2021, brought to you by the students at the Edinburgh College School of Arts, Management and Humanities in the course called Arts, Culture, and the Environment. This is their class project. You decide if they get a pass or a fail. As far as I'm concerned, it is still hanging in the balance. EcoJam 2021. Blessings. I don't know, man.
Divided by itself cannot excel. Break down our roots in the spiral. Let's break the chain and start to tire. Expand your mind and start to think broader. So it can filter down to your family. Oh, family, all the fussing and fight, all the fussing and fight. You hate me and I hate you. We all gotta unite. Jealousy and you envy. You disagree and I disagree. We all gotta unite. Everybody blood, bleed the same color, baby. Why can't we live in love? We're struggling over power, money and greed. Am I gonna live to see Jaja root out the bad weed? Some go down, then I be dreading and the nigga still safe and sound. And when the water breath, keep by your mouth. We got in the vessel, we smiling at the storm is sea. God never give me even fire. Oh, never give me now, because I burn. Unite in the east, unite in the west, unite in the north, and unite in the south. We're talking about got to come together, got to get together, got to get yourself right, yes. Got to know what to do, we got to know what to stand for. The righteous cry, the rich man gain, the poor man die. Laborers dying for hunger, while the bosses are sleeping and slumber. Donkey said the world it no level, but that no mean we a go back to the devil now. Still I show love 24/7, even though me not get the pay. Him not left the side and me cry. I him a drive behind the wire. Me just a go on the right, wire. Me just a go on the right and I see. You see the good we do. You see the struggles Babylon put me through. Why? Me just a go on the ride. Why? Me just a go on the ride. The wicked man flossing, everyone them dancing. Him just drive past in a Benz. While the righteous walking, everyone walk passing. Him never get none of the beam of them. Me still a work hard from Wednesday to Wednesday. Come in and know where him to forget the Benz there. And whatever him do, me not do it. Me sure I'm in reward because I not sleep. I'm sure him not left the side and when me cry, him a dry me eyes and why me just a go on the right and why you me just a go on the right and I sleep. Never sleep, see the good we do. Him see the struggles Babylon put to the truth. Oh, yeah, me just a go on the right, yeah. Me just a go on the right. None of them can do nothing. Me fi say them can't do nothing. Cause I got it, nobody mind on the inside, none of them can't do nothing. They say them can't do nothing. Cause I got it, see I walk beside me. Rastafari tell me say straight, me not be afraid and a fall. See I done a walk with me, he say everywhere when I go. Hey, I said that they're not to walk by myself. In this world where time gets so dread. No make Babylon get to your head. You're not gonna left dead, you're well protected. Can't do nothing. She said them can't do nothing. Cause I got it. Loot and no bad mind on the inside. Well, them can't do nothing. Them can't do nothing. Well, guide me. See I won't be beside you.
Silent carry go bring confuse. Who no want see me fall, them want see me lose. Cause I got a couple good soldiers on the move. Hypocrites are brave, we pop them but we still are improve. Them no care about nobody but I still watch over me. Them all full of scars but I know easy push over me. I say peace, take sleep and markets. When them shots, them can't make me afraid.
None of them can do nothing. Me say them can't do nothing. Cause I got it. Nobody mind on the inside. None of them can't do nothing. She said them can't do nothing. Cause I got it. See I walk beside me. Skanking, grooving, hallelujah. Skanking, grooving, help me, Jaja. Skanking, grooving, under pressure. Yeah, skanking, grooving.
Check.
Under the pressures of a life and it tough. No stay down, mama, time pick it up. No bother with the down full style, strictly up full vibes. I pick it up when the bills, them, the rent and the mortgage due. Yeah. When me chalice, when your best friends are gone and it's only you. Yeah, like a split turn up the music. Skanking sweet, everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and the rock with me. You know feel a reggae music sweet, yeah. Skanking sweet,
microphone check.
everybody wanna feel
testing
like
for
free.
sound,
Forget your troubles
audio,
and the rock with me. You know
quality,
feel a reggae music
diction.
sweet, yeah. Skanking sweet, for every pain there's a melody, yeah. For every trouble there's a harmony that brings everything together. So make we sing together. And who say life no order? And every man got their struggle. I beg you to help me, Lord, and let me overcome my struggles. Skanking sweet, yeah. Everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and rock with me. You know feel a reggae music sweet, yeah. Skanking sweet, everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and rock with me. You know feel a
And we are back.
at EcoJam Enviro-Art Forum 2021. Welcome to our conversation, Heart. The S is silent. Art is at the heart of the conversation today. And we're going to be looking at the intersections of culture and environment in creative expression. Allow me to welcome our panelists. In studio, we have Mazola and Lifechild. And joining us via Zoom, we have Yashika Graham and David Muir. Not seeing it here. I'm going to start by introducing my panelists who are on Zoom, who I can't see.
We're here.
You're here. Oh, hi, David. Hi. Hi, Yash, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Yash. David Moore, as he has just been christened by Mr. Ellis. Now, David is what I would describe as an artist. Photo artist, DJ, formerly of Ambassadors Disco, that was started with the famous Rory Stone Love. David has also been an artist manager. He has managed Christina Alicia, and he's also a fashion designer. I can never forget those infamous side mirror bags, David. So the artist. And he's actually noted as South Florida's 100 most accomplished Caribbean Americans, but he's Jamaican. But accomplished, 100 of the most accomplished Caribbean Americans, but for the record, he's Jamaican. And he's also been awarded Photojournalist of the Year. Yeah, so Mr. David Muir, the artist. Next, Yashika Graham. Yashika is a poet, published writer. She's published internationally. Most recently, she's been published in Spillway Magazine, Magma 76, Pre, and Kahini Quarterly. Welcome, Yashika.
Thank you.
Mazola, I think I want to leave you for last. It's not because you're least, but because I'm going to start with you first.
Okay, no, but I'm the oldest, I think, so I should be last.
Okay, so we're going to get to some of these cultural quirks when we start to unpack the topic. So I'm going to go with the gentleman to my left, who is Lifechild. And Lifechild, we have seen your murals all around Kingston. And for those of you who are just getting to know Lifechild, he's an international muralist operating here in Jamaica. He was very integral in the Paint Jamaica Fleet Street art project that has now spawned other art children. And he now operates his own arts company, Art Evolution. And your story is very interesting because your inspiration for art was your mother, who you lost at 8 months old, but you have been channeling what you feel is her intention for your life.
Definitely.
And that's what brings you here today.
Definitely.
And that's very interesting. Now, Mazola.
Yes.
You're born in Kenya, but you've adopted Jamaica, or has Jamaica adopted you?
I think it is both ways. But if I'll give you just a background, is that in 1996, I went to the post office box in Ngara, in Nairobi, to check letters. It was a shared box, and I found this form, and I opened it, and it was actually from the Commonwealth Foundation. I didn't know who had sent it to me, no. And I opened it, and it was about the Commonwealth Fellowship in Art and Craft. And when I went, I see, oh yeah, you can go to Jamaica. And I said, I'm going to Jamaica. And I filled the forms, sent my works, that time we were not dealing with the digital images. We were just dealing with the slides, long time ago. And then I won the award for the Africa region. And I had chosen to come to Jamaica. The director of the Commonwealth Foundation told me, wrote to me an official letter that, we know you like Jamaica, but go there for 1 month and then head to Canada, because the way we look at your art, you'll gain more in Canada. So I asked a lot of people. I had already made up my mind, but I wanted to see how people look at these issues. And everybody told me, go to Canada, you'll get more, and all that thing. The issue of first world, second world, third world. And the thing about me is I don't deal with life that way. And I made a choice to come here at the Edna Manley, where we are today. That's why I give thanks for the invitation, but also it's my way of giving back to what I received and what I continue receiving from Jamaica. So I came here in 1997. I was 33 years old then. I just turned 57 this Friday.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. And so I've been here and I've continued to do my art. I went to art school in Kenya and did drawing and painting. But for the Commonwealth Fellowship, which you can see is a very spiritual thing, fellowship. It sounds religious, but I think it's more spiritual than religious. I chose to do free-form sculpture. And up to today, when I look at my work, I really do not regret saying no to the director that I'm not going to Canada. Now I'm ready to go to Canada, but I wasn't ready then. So I give that.
So this is a sort of coming home of sorts for you.
This is home because when I came here, the language, because I look at Patois more like English spoken as an African language, not broken English, because the sounds, they are all the sounds, the sounding of the word, even some of the words like nyam, they are really African words, and even the people look alike. If I walk even in Trench Town, you wouldn't know where I come from until I speak. Then people will say, oh, where do you come from? Then I tell them, I come from Craig Hill in the Blue Mountains. And then we laugh about it. And later I tell them, okay, you didn't ask specifically which country did I come from.
All right, Mazel. And on that point, I'm actually going to go to our topic for the evening, heart.
Yes.
And there's a reason I actually ended with you, because of our 4 panelists here today, both you and David are currently residing in locales that are not your birthplaces. And that actually is going to be the jump off point for part of the conversation that we're going to have today, which is really about environment. And we're looking at environment not from a eco sustainability perspective, but from a holistic one. So environment as space, environment as both physical and your social and psychological space. And both of you are currently living in 2 spaces that are not your birthplace. And so I want to get a sense from both of you. David, I'm going to start with you as a photo artist, as the artist, managing a recording artist in the space that you're currently in, having traveled. Are there ways that you would say that being in environment, so that's the environment that you are in currently now, which is South Florida. Can you say that being there has had a specific and a different sort of effect on your work, your artistic creations? Can you say that?
Definitely. So let me actually take a little step back here just to give you a context for what you are speaking of. So while I live in a space that I did not born into, I mean, I was obviously born in Jamaica, grew up in Jamaica, lived the majority of my life in Jamaica. But even having that history, you could put me anywhere. I mean, I've been to Kenya, I've been to all parts of Europe and to South America and to parts of Asia, China, all of these places. You carry your own artistic space with you everywhere you go. So if you are true to yourself, it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. So yes, there is an effect because you get to learn different things from different people. You get open to other ideas, other concepts, and so on based on where you are. But you can get that at home too. But I think you're open to, or you're likely to have more opportunities to find a more diverse set of ideas and concepts the further afield you go in the world. But you carry with you your ownership of who you are. And if you are an artist that is expressing your personal perspective on the world, then absolutely wherever is inbred in you from your upbringing, wherever you choose to be. My sensibilities are not that of my parents or my grandparents. They're those of myself and my experiences. So I carry with me my years in Jamaica. I carry with me my years in New York City. I carry with me my years in South Florida. And all of these things are a part of who I am, and who I am is what influences my art.
Fair enough. I want to ask something else though. Is there a way in which, for example, in 2012, you published your book, Pieces of Jamaica, and I know that you have an affinity for outdoor spaces, green spaces, rural landscapes.
Absolutely.
And when you're in Jamaica and you step outside, you're outdoors in this particular environment, is there a way that what you see impacts the work that you produce?
Absolutely.
And is that different? How is that different when you're in a different space?
It depends on the intention of the work. Sometimes art is informed by different things. So, I mean, I can't give you the answer you're seeking unless I understand what you want me to say. The truth is, Karen, I love the question, is that my expressions are funneled or fueled by my intentions. So when I am in a space like Jamaica, and Jamaica's outdoors and Jamaica's green spaces, my intention, what is informing the desire of my art, is different than when I'm in a different space, because I have different goals at those times, and therefore my art is going to reflect my goals and my inspiration and all of the things that make me whom I am. But definitively, it is different. And I'm going to say that what is most different about it is that when I'm in spaces like Jamaica or even in like Africa, I am informed by a different type of love and passion than if I am doing similar work elsewhere in the world. But not to lose sight of, I've done work in Barbados and Haiti and Cayman, and I can go on, and those are also different, but maybe closer, because they remind me, they inform me of my history in the Caribbean. And so it really is about, I mean, for me specifically as an artist, what informs me in terms of how I approach any part of my job is, and I say job because this is my purpose. It's not just because I like to do it and I'm, one who's expressing myself because of a joy it gives me. It does that as well. But my work is extremely purposed. I am, every time I share any of my work, it is because I'm making a statement to the world about how I see the world and what I want others to see about the world. And so, yeah, it is very different where I am, and my intentions change based on where I am.
Thanks, David. Yashika, I want to bring you into the conversation at this particular point. David is a photo artist, he's a fashion designer, the artist. You are a visual artist, you're a writer. tell me about the ways in which environment actually impacts your creative output.
Oh wow. I think just like David, I am similarly driven by space. I still live in Jamaica, but I grew up in rural Jamaica. I grew up in Westmoreland, and I have been living in Kingston for almost 20 years. So I find myself, whenever I'm in a particular space, to be stimulated differently. And that could mean being pulled towards origins. So quite a bit of my writing in recent times have been linked to trying to capture what I feel I have lost or am missing in terms of the language, the rural space, the air, the trees. We used to go river all the time. That's not a reality anymore. So there is a sense of reaching for that reality. And there is also a way in which being away from a space calls different things out of you. So you might, and I find myself actually finding pieces of myself that I probably would not have discovered had I stayed in a single place. And I find that when I travel abroad as well, I don't know that I know something, or that I don't know that I'm capable of something or capable of a particular kind of work until I see something either different or something that calls something that might seem strange out of me, but it turns out that it's in here, you know? So space for me is really important, and pulls and draws and all kind of things happen with space for me in terms of my work.
Thanks, Ishika. I have a couple of hot topics that I want to bring up in this conversation. And I was hoping to sort of start off, lukewarm, and then we just up the temperature. You said something, and I think I'm going to turn the temperature up a little bit. There has been a trend, I would say, that I have observed over the past 2 years, specifically with regards to writers, Jamaican writers and Caribbean writers, that it seems to me that most of our writers, most of the Jamaican writers who are being published are residing overseas. And I listen to you speak, and I am wondering about space. What is it about space that pulls something out of us? That is it perspective? Is it being too close to the actual environment that removes something from us? And just to give this some context, he's not in studio with me now, but I'm going to chat some of Mr. Ellis's business. Mr. Ellis went to Canada to study for his master's degree, and his dissertation the topic for his dissertation was called "Kill It Before It Bites You," and essentially he is arguing for self-preservation, so to speak. I'm sure he would put it that way. But he just talking about this approach that we have to nature and to the unfamiliar. So as a man, there is another living thing that I am unaccustomed to. I'm going to kill it before it bites me. But while he was in Canada, for example, and he had to now interact with creatures like raccoons that are completely unfamiliar in the Jamaican landscape, and while he would want to pick up a big stone and fling it at the raccoon, he cannot possibly do that in that space because chances are he'd be in prison, right? And so space now dictates the way that he can actually respond to this kind of thing. And it got me really thinking about space, just the ways that space can give us perspective and shift culture. So we're now inside, not only are we in a different physical space, but we're also in a different cultural space. And what we do, our behavior is clearly partly defined, that is, by that new space and the culture that comes with that. So I just calling you out, as a writer, like, what's with that? Are you gonna pack up and go off like to write your next bestseller?
Well, as I said before, space is so very important for me, and you're right that it does offer you perspective. It does offer you useful distance, but you have to also be aware of, you have to value the distance. You have to know that it does something for you, for it to actually do something for you. So yeah, there have been instances where I've been away and I'm writing furiously about Jamaica and being given particular perspectives that I would not have had in the same way and perhaps as soon as I did had I been in a single place. I do travel and I do plan to travel more. I don't know where I'll end up living ultimately, you know? But I do think that it is necessary to move. It is necessary to leave home is something that has been knocking in my head because home is so, we have a romance towards home, and yes, we're grounded in these spaces, but also there is a lot to be discovered of the world and of ourselves by interacting and engaging with the wider world.
Thanks, Yash. I want to bring Live Child into the conversation. You had started your murals in Kingston within the Paint Jamaica Fleet Street space, and that's a very urban space.
Most definitely.
And I know that more recently you've been spending a lot of time in Portland,
Definitely.
doing murals in that space, which is a rural space. It's very different from Fleet Street.
That's true.
So I want you to tell me, have you noticed a difference in the kinds of mural that you create when you are in Portland versus the murals that you would have started out creating while you were on Fleet Street?
Yeah, definitely there is a big difference. All right, so basically the difference is I get more in tune on the spiritual side of my mural because I did Bayview Eco Resort and Spa, and I did that for Mr. Gardenthausen. A part of doing that mural was being able to tap into his subconsciousness. So he never told me exactly what he wanted. He said, the wall is your, it's your canvas, paint what you see. And a part of painting what I see now was to actually communicate and to connect with his thoughts and to see what his thoughts were saying. So spiritually, he's very much in tune with life and the spiritual aspect of life. So it was, I would say, a bliss for ones to actually learn how to communicate with others' mind. And a part of that now, it bring me in a whole different transition of spirituality and also different spiritual aspect of art, where I discover that art has a very powerful healing aspect. So doing Bayview Eco Resort and Spa, it unlocked a certain level of healing. And when Mr. Towson could sit back with me, like even earlier, sometime last year, late last year, December, and he called me up and he said, Life Child, I don't know how to pay you because I can't pay you for this work that you have done. Because now I realize what you are doing and the healing aspect now it brings to so many people across the world that come to this space, you know, so it's very much powerful.
Thank you for that. Mazolo.
Yes.
I want to know from you, you were obviously creating art while you were in Kenya before you came to Jamaica.
Yes, I was.
Tell me about the differences in the kinds of things that you have been creating here in Jamaica.
Well, there's a big difference, if I could say that. Because being here, it means I am not there, but I am still there, because there is in here. So people ask me, do you miss Kenya? Do you do this? No. Just like David said, it is in you, and so you bring it out. So wherever I am, I'm carrying all these, and remember, we are all memories. Your nose looks like your great-great-grandfather's nose through your DNA, although you have never seen your great-great-grandfather's picture. But what I would say is that as I have lived here and grown, I'm growing older here or growing younger here, I don't know how to say it. I'm going deeper I am mellowing, but at the same time, what brought me into Jamaica was I saw Jamaica as a center of expressing to the world what ails the world. And because most of my work is about healing, but it starts with me. I am healing myself. Sure. So when I go, I pass Gordon Town Road, and I'm going up to Craig Hill, and I see somebody has thrown away a big refrigerator. I think of that refrigerator has served that family, maybe generations. But look at what they did to it. They just threw it away. So I think of picking it up so I can use it as material. And so my work has really grown because, as you know, with art, as you age, music is different because the notes, the high notes that you used to sing then, you might not be able to sing them now. But with art now, it's like wine. You are growing older and you are getting better and better. And because also I am far away from home, I am more into tune with my own work. I have no relatives here. So it's just me. And at the same time, in tune with my spiritual self, because we are just air. If you stop breathing right now and maybe you are standing up, you'll drop. And this air is everywhere. It's really the breath of life. Maybe that's what they say. God is everywhere, is omnipresent. It's the air, really. There's only air which is all over the place at the same time.
Right. But I want to ask you specifically, though, Mazola, when you look at the kinds of work that you were producing in Kenya,
yes,
and the kinds of work that you're producing in Jamaica, you're in Gordon Town now, and your environment is lush, it's green, you
yes,
have a river
yes,
very close by. I can imagine that you might be moved in this space that you are in,
yes,
to create some specific things. I mean, I know that you have, since the time I've known you, your work has changed, like most artists.
Definitely.
So you've evolved now to fashion. You're now
yes,
creating
yes,
fashion.
Yes.
And I want to know specifically if there's anything that you can pinpoint, just being in a different space. And even within Jamaica, you've moved several times.
Yes.
Can you say that your current spaces
yes,
have an impact on the kinds of work that you create?
Yes, because like right now, I am working from a place I call the playground. You've been there. It used to be a factory before for making fiberglass furniture and other Jamaican souvenirs. So it's a big place. One is I found so many things in there. Old coins, pieces of furniture, which some of them I've used before in my installations and performances. And then, as you said, because I've not lived in any place in Jamaica for too long. So because I keep on moving in that environment, and since I use found objects, which I think the objects find me, because I don't just pick anything. It calls me, even that refrigerator that I talked about. So the work keeps on changing, and because it's changed my nature of my work into more experimental. So I'm experimenting all the time. And so, as you said, I'm into creating bags, fashion, I don't know what tomorrow brings, but it's because I'm not thinking too much. My thoughts are more of intuitive, because as you know, if you think too much, you are really bringing memory. You are really repeating yourself.
Okay, thank you. So now that we've talked a little bit about space, I want to go back to our topic, which is really pronounced heart. I say the S is silent. But in that, you can see that there is some reference to gender. And I think this is where we might get a little heated, because I want to have a sense of the effect that gender, and I'm saying gender as a function of culture now, not just by itself, because I think that, and this is just my thoughts, not representative of the Manley College or anything, but David, I suspect that you might be a different kind of man when you're in South Florida than when you are driving through rural Jamaica. And you might not want to say on public, on air, but as a consequence of being in rural Jamaica, if you're driving and you really need to use the bathroom, you might pull over. And when you're in South Florida, you might just have to be forced to go and use a restroom somewhere as a function of being male. And I'm not sure if Yashika shares that experience or any of our panelists, but I really want to look at the ways in which gender as a function of culture dictates how we actually interact with the environment. What are your thoughts on that, David?
Absolutely correct. But I think it's societal and cultural in everything that we do. It's not just about how we interact with the environment, it's how we interact with each other and everything else. I mean, we're so informed to act in specific ways because of our environment, because of the culture, because of those who are around us, that without question, I am different there than I am here. But I also, being born male and having a male physiology, doesn't make me very male if I don't think and act completely male. So, although I am a man and I was born with a penis, I don't see myself as a traditional man. Like when people say, "Boy, you're a Jamaican man," I say, "Well, I'm Jamaican," because I don't necessarily agree that I fall in line with what a Jamaican man typically is. And I
want to cut you though. So
Yeah.
fine, you might not identify as a Jamaican man, but you're still a man, and you identify as male. And I believe that, let's take the culture aside, there are just some kinds of physiological experiences that you can have as a man. And I think also some kinds of biological ones too, that I believe allow men to interact with their physical environments in different ways. I'm going to bring Yashika in too, to see if she shares some of these same views.
Hello, Carrie. Okay, so the example you gave is an interesting one because both being a woman, a female child, and also the spaces that I have occupied have been, I guess, interconnected. So when I was growing up in rural Jamaica, the place I come from, there still is no running water. We still, we used a pit latrine for so long. So you would go to the bush, go to the river, go to the. There's no bathroom in those spaces. You use the bush, you know? And that was, I would say that both myself and my brothers did that in general. But there was a way, and that I suppose we are nurtured into this, where the female body is treated differently. So you would be told, you don't do this in front of the boys. You seek privacy, you know? Whereas the boys, they would freely, readily, on call, go ahead and do what they needed to do. You could say from that experience that there is a way that the male experience is one that claims or is gifted the environment in a broader way than the female or girl or woman is led to do. I'll give you a further experience. When I came to Kingston early on and being used to the rural experience of you pee when you need to, and if it is safe to do so, I was visiting my aunt. My older sister had been living in Kingston for some time. We were outside playing. I needed to pee. I peed. My sister, my sister saw me and she was appalled. So she was like, no, you don't do this. And da, 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 da. So again, the environment. Now you're in Kingston. We have bathrooms inside. You take care of these needs inside. So it was both, you're a girl, you do this. Also, you're in Kingston, you do this. You know what I mean? In Kingston, I do know that men still pee on the street. So again, the claiming of space and also the regulations around gender, I think, are affected by space. And they're affected by, like you said, the cultures that we've associated with these categories of people.
Thanks, Yash. I see David. I'm looking at his face and I can see that he's itching to respond. But I want to say before David responds, I just love that we're talking about where we can use the bathroom depending on our gender and what kinds of space we have. I love it. This is great. It's like a great way to start our conversation. And before you, because I know you have something to say, the point I'm making is this. When I think about Pluto Shervington and his famous song about ram goat liver, I can't imagine that Pluto Shervington might have been inspired to sing such a song if he was living in an urban space without having or without being in the kind of space that would allow for him to have such an experience and such an encounter. So to my mind, there must be some experiences that because you are male or because you're female and you're more inclined to have some of these kinds of experiences, that it might inspire a creative output that is very unique to the gender. David, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then we're going to go to our panelists in studio.
Well, I thank you for allowing me to speak again. I'll say this, Kerry. I mean, listen, I'm born in Kingston, but I spent every summer in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, my grandparents. And as a function of someone that went from town to country and country to town with regularity, I can tell you immediately there are things, I mean, just as some of, even like Yashika is saying, we never have no bathroom inside in Santa Cruz. Yes, latrine is out back. And you have to go down, you have to walk in the dark, down the bush, to go do your things. So there definitely gender is important to the discussion because unfortunately our culture has taught us definitively that girls and boys can't do all the same things, which is unfortunate to me. But of course, that's because I am trying to be able to think outside of the world culture that I've been raised in. I'll leave it at this. I think that there is a possibility because I personally believe that I exist outside of what I've been taught. I don't follow the rules specifically. I'm aware of them, I acknowledge them, but I am free to operate outside of what I am taught. And if I'm breaking those rules, it is intentional. And I just want to share that I think that we can all do that. It's about sort of releasing ourselves from all of the rules or understanding what about the rules are not as important as people like to make them. And I leave you there.
Thanks, David. And I like that. And that's the reason we're having this conversation, because I think that a lot of times we create because it is in us to create, especially, I think everyone's an artist, but for those who create consistently, you do that because it is in you and it's something that you must get out. And I do believe that a lot of time there are these things that are driving us, that are cultural, that are environmental. And for the most part, we are largely unaware. So this conversation is really to unpack some of those things and to share together as we fellowship. I think it was Mazzolo who had mentioned that word fellowship, as we fellowship together, but also as we inspire or audience who may or may not be in active pursuit of creative works to just be aware of some of the things that are driving the work. And I want to bring in Mazola and Live Challenges. Are there ways that you might be able to identify that gender, your experience as a man, Mazola and Lifechild, that has played a role in your experiences and that comes through your art?
Definitely, because I was born like this. I was born a man, and then later, the voice changes a little, and then you have a beard, and all these things are there. But for me personally, I would say it this way: if I am walking on the road, I don't know my name. I don't remember my name until somebody asks me my name. I don't remember where I come from until somebody asks me, where do you really come from? But I am this way because I have fought for my freedom from freedom itself. When you free yourself, yes, I'm a man, but I wouldn't say that, oh, I do things this in particular way because I'm a man. It's a very tough question to answer.
I want to challenge that.
Yes.
Carry it.
Currently,
yes.
Yes, David, I am challenging that.
Yes, that's good.
You're currently living in rural St. Andrew, and for our viewers, he's on the outskirts of Kingston, up in the hills.
Yes.
Lovely place.
Yes.
Very lonely.
Yes.
I want to challenge that because as much as I love visiting you
yes.
at the playground and I love seeing the kinds of work that you produce there and the ways that change, I can't imagine myself
yes.
being able to live in a space like that all alone as a female, because I would be very unsafe. I would feel unsafe. And so I want to challenge that. I want to say that I believe that there are certain ways in which, because you are a male,
yes.
you can navigate environment
yes.
in a way that is different from women. And obviously the fact that you can be in that very remote space,
yes.
which inspires you to, work with found objects and to go in different directions with your artwork. That's a different experience than one that a woman might have.
But Carrie, can I challenge you back though?
Sure, David. Of course, I love this.
So let me ask you. So I mean, there are so many women who have done first all around the world, first in so many different ways. Sure, there will always seem things that are impossible. That's like how you personally haven't risen from your space to say in your mind that you could live in his existence. I'm sure there's another woman out there who is not in the same informed state as you, where they're going to not care about the fear and they can do it and they can achieve it. Like, for example, before we had Sister P as our prime minister, many women would have thought that's not a space that a woman can occupy, and then she achieved it. And I can go through so many women who have done so many firsts. The first woman to do A or B or C in the men's sport or in male ways. I mean, there is always an opportunity to break those ceilings and to go beyond. So while I agree that most women are not likely to want to take the chance and live in that space, I'm certain there's a woman somewhere around in our watchers or in a panel who feel that they don't want to be limited by what you think is possible.
David.
Okay, Yash, go ahead. Yes.
I'm curious where you think the first woman to do this thing or first woman to achieve this thing, where that is coming from. It sounds like you are reading it as coming from women believing they can or cannot do something, but we do have to recognize that there have been active restrictions of women throughout history that have hindered that from happening. The Prime Minister example is a prime one,
I'm with you, Yashika, and I am one of those gentlemen who actually want the women to do all of the things that were restricted from them as soon as possible. And so I would join any fight and any cause that would allow women to to defeat all of these barriers that have existed for them because of people that hold the same gender as me. And so that's one of the reasons why when I said I consider myself Jamaican, but not necessarily a Jamaican man. And it's a part of that. I don't like to associate with the whole concept of man because man is very, very, very wicked and has done many things to harm many people, including women. I don't want to be associated with those folks, whether as a person or as an artist or in any way. So I try my best to disassociate myself from that gender situation. I was born this way, and I do take advantage of some of the privileges afforded to me because I am a man. But I try as much as I can use those privileges to help women as well. So all I'm saying here is that if we, because men have done things to make it difficult for women, if we rest on our laurels and keep that status quo, then women will never achieve the things that we want to achieve. So I'm just saying, let's be inspired by those who break the barriers, and let's try and encourage others to break the barriers so we don't see that because it may seem unsafe or because it may seem uncomfortable or it may be difficult that a woman can't achieve these great heights that we want for them.
I'm going to jump in before we get back to the panel, David, and I'm going to call you out on something.
Call me out.
I am going to call you out because I disagree. I disagree. Like I was saying to Mazola, it is not that women do not aspire to, or that there isn't a woman, or there might not be a few women who perceive the possibility and go in pursuit of that possibility to exist in some of these spaces that might be difficult for them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that because there are ways in which living in a remote space, going off alone to find material for creating might be dangerous. And it is not advisable to do that. I'm not saying that women should not go and live in a space that inspires creation or not go off in pursuit of these things, but it is different. The experience of it is different for a man than a woman. And I'm calling you out on this. When you were in Jamaica, curating content for your Pieces of Jamaica book, you drove the length and breadth of Jamaica and you could hop out of the car anywhere to snap a photo. And I'm going to be honest, as a woman driving around, I too take photos. I too create content. When I hop out, before I can even get out of the car, there are at least 3 things that I consider, right? I look around. There's one man, I don't really look like he's too harmful. I might get out of the car and I hear, psst, I'm going straight back in. What I'm saying is that there are ways in which or gender affords us certain kinds of privileges that can get us proximity to space that actually help to create art. Yes, David.
Yeah, man. So I'm in total agreement with what you're saying, Karen. I don't dispute that, but I believe fear is a heck of a thing. And what I mean by that is I while traversing Jamaica, doing Pieces of Jamaica, just like you said, curating all those pieces and going all the length and the breadth of the island, the majority of male photographers, all of whom were a part of the same sort of clique that I was a part of, refused to do it too. They said, "You're crazy, David. Why are you going downtown with your camera? Somebody could hold you up and steal your camera. Why are you going here with this and that? Why are you taking these chances? You're going to get killed." I was fortunate to not have been killed because I abandoned this fear that was being told to me that I should have. Because, and I'm not saying that you should do that as a woman, but I'm just telling you, as a man with other men, people told me that what I'm doing is crazy, and I said I am going to do what I want to do and ignore the fear that I was being taught that I should have for my environment, because I did not want to hold on to that, because I had a mission and I was going to do the mission with or without danger associated with it. I took some things into consideration when making my choices, trying to be as safe as possible. I did have to look around and to consider things, but I also had to humble myself in ways that were needed to be able to exist in that space. I agree it's different. I'm not a woman, but I still had to deal with a lot of things that were based on, again, fear that I was being taught that I should have, because it is dangerous to traverse in certain ways around Jamaica, whether it's male or female, whether it's A or B. So I'm just giving you a perspective. There's always a challenge, and sometimes you have to go through and ignore the things that are being told to you as fear and find ways to defeat those challenges. And that's my experience. You may feel differently, but I'm genuinely telling you that's where I'm coming from in my space.
I appreciate the perspective, David. I'm still sticking to my guns that I do believe that there are ways in which women have to consider way more things than men do when it is that we are going into space with the intention of finding inspiration for creating artistic works. And I'm going to go now to my folks here in studio. Mazola, you look like you have something to say.
I have
and I know
something.
I know
Yes.
that Life Child is going to have something to say. So Mazola, I'm going to give you a quick 2 minutes to respond to that, and then we're going to take Life Child. Your mic?
We hear him loud and clear, loud and clear.
Okay. I am not saying I do not agree with you, but it's more so because of the social contracts that we have constructed these things. And so as a girl child comes up, they are told this and this and this, okay? But if, let's say, you grew up with your dad and you follow your dad and you know daughters and their dads, you might end up getting out of that. So it's not that I disagree because I want to disagree, but I'm disagreeing because we need to change all these things. I do agree that it's not easy for woman artists to get out of their van and, get a refrigerator and put it in because they'll need somebody else. But it's because they have been told that they are weak. All right? But how do we counter these social narratives so that we can change, so that a woman can live wherever they are? They can be alone and be safe. And even you're talking of safety. For me now, I am a foreigner. So it's not that easy. It hasn't been easy.
Bazola, I'm interrupting you because I'm also watching Yashika, and I'm thinking to myself, whether it was a refrigerator or it was a plant at the side of the road, the moment a woman opens the door, you first of all, you're looking around. You're trying to see if there is any immediate danger that you can observe. And I'm not saying that men don't do this too, but I believe that women, it's something that we're conditioned to do, right? So we're observing. Secondly, the moment we get out, if it is an object that might require some help, I am of the view that if it were a very large fridge, you would have needed help to have, gotten that. The moment we try to solicit help, it is likely that we are going to be solicited. There are ways in which there's going to be, as we would say in Jamaica, argument that's put to us. So we're considering a whole bunch of things. And so by the time you get to the fourth thing that you're considering, you might say, you know what? It is just not worth it for me to stop and go and collect this fridge. I'm going to keep driving. I'm just saying that there are a lot of things that women have to consider in comparison to men. Yashika, can I just ask you to just chime in? And I'm not asking for support. I'm just asking you to weigh in.
I don't know what to say, Carrie. I think that in a very significant way, women are endangered. We could call ourselves an endangered species, along with so many other elements in the environment. And you're right, there are so many things that we do have to consider. And to David's point, he had said, fear is something that we are taught and all of this. I do want to say that it is not just fear. Like there are material things that are presenting themselves, as you say, Carrie, stepping out of the car, there are material realities that are present in every one of those spaces. Even if we step away from the isolation that brought us to this place, the isolated space, the claiming of, the wilderness and that place, to step out of your house, that is to step into danger. And I won't minimize the male experience to say that there aren't active dangers for men, but the physiology is real, the physical body has a way of, or has been cultured to have a particular effect. And so the female body now is something that is, it's in danger, and it is seen as something to claim. It's like you see a ripe mango and you say, man, forget the mango there. Everybody want the mango and them going after it. And it feels a lot like that. Like you step out of your house, you need to do something, and you have to think of all of the things that are gonna be like crawling around you, or all of the terror, Kerry, to be honest with you. And that happens in isolation, and that happens in the very day-to-day and mundane activities that we may want to undertake. And that is just life, like life for the woman and the man tend to vary in that way.
Thanks, Yashika. Mazola, before you respond, I want to bring Live Child into this specific part of the conversation, because you're a muralist and you're painting murals outdoors. And if you feel like it, you can go outside at any time and paint from sunup until sundown in spaces that some people might say are either unsafe or are lonely or isolated. I want to bring you into the conversation. Can you see that there is any difference, or you don't think so? Like, what's your perspective on this?
There's a really lot of difference, because listen to everyone, everyone speak. Everyone has their true divine points. So everyone is right within their true divine aspect. And even as a male, it's very dangerous for us, as it is dangerous for a woman. And part of that is being in Fleet Street, Southside. And this is one of the most vital communities that we were working in as artists. And we're working on one of the most vital streets. And just being there and the danger that surrounds, and then when I look back at what we have accomplished, and then for me as one of the artists that stay back into the community, helping out with life here, to see it mature and grow, and we see the difference that it can become. But a part of the danger, what I can support with what you were saying when it comes to a woman, I have to balance you on that aspect, because it's pretty much dangerous for you as a feminine energy in many aspects of it. It's also for what Yashika was saying, just the same. David, you have some very important points, just the same thing. But how we can give these things now. The way that we were brought up, we have to kind of reprogram the thoughts of how we think, how we look at life in different perspectives. As a woman, personally, I give you the most beautiful honors of life, because my inspiration is from my mother. And it allowed me to see women in a whole different aspect. And a part of that is also communicating with my feminine side of me, to understand even more how a woman nurtures, how even me as myself has to be more caring. But a part of all of these things now, it's pretty a balance. Yeah? And when I said it is a balance, yes.
Mazola, I know you had a point.
Yes. No, all this that we are talking about is true. But one question that I want to ask is, okay, the lady artist cannot pick a refrigerator, all right? Or cannot stay at the place like where I am, alone, and walking. I walk in the hills and stuff like that. The problem is that I don't fear anything. That's one. Not just because I'm a man, but I'm not scared. Otherwise, I wouldn't live in Jamaica. Twice I've almost lost my life, an attempt on my life, but I'm still here. That's a spiritual aspect of what I do, and I heal myself. But the other part is that lady artist who sees that they cannot stay where Mazola is staying, they cannot pick the things that Mazola can pick and use. Does it mean that they cannot progress in their art? I wouldn't think so, because now you try to navigate from all that danger and see how you get through to what you really want. So what really drives you? And also to make a point as a father of two very beautiful girls, is that if you're a father and you sit with your daughter and maybe that's the first time that their river has come, if I can use that Jamaican term, which is the monthly periods. If you can sit with your daughter and say, okay, what actually controls the tides of the sea is the moon. What controls the season is the moon. So if you put that into your daughter and tell them, now you see what has happened to you, it is connected to the moon. So don't let anybody tell you that you are weak. We are not men, we are not connected to that. So all this is a lie that people have been lying to the ladies, the women, that they are weak. But it also affects us, men, who want to bring out our nurturing ability, because everyone has it. You'll be called names, mama man, why are you walking with your daughter? And all these things, okay? So there is a lot of stuff, and we are talking here because it's not just about art, but as you can see that the art that we are talking about, which comes from the heart, we need to heal ourselves from many of the things. Those social guidelines and whatever, not breaking them, but really maneuvering through them and seeing how can we change this, that a woman artist can feel okay to stop somewhere. Think of working with like driftwood. I know you go to the beach. You ever been to the beach and you find, oh, driftwood is there, is coming. Have you ever found that?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I understand. If I've been to the beach and have observed just a piece of driftwood coming towards me?
Yes.
No, it's usually on the beach.
Yes, because it comes, it's a mystic thing. It comes at night. It has a story. So if you as a female artist, you want to use it, get connected to it, but see more. It's just like what we were talking about, the environment. The environment and you is one.
And I completely agree with you, Mazola. I also still do believe that there are very real and tangible differences with regards to the kinds of privileges, and I dare use that word, privileges that men are afforded in space just on account of gender. And I do believe that that allows for men to be able, or just to have the possibility of doing, I don't want to say way more, but it is easier to transact, to navigate certain kinds of spaces. And I just think that it's just something that we should be aware of.
But Kerry, doesn't that then make the woman artist better? Because it's in the conflict that you find the greatness. So if it is so much more challenging for the woman, then without question, the art should be greater.
Do you want me to respond to that?
That is up to you. You're the moderator. I'm positioning myself. I'm happy to hear your response.
I mean, fun and joke aside, David, I hear you, and it's not about women being better. It's not about that. It's not even about quality. What I'm saying is that I'm pretty certain that women in various vocations, I mean, we can expand the conversation beyond artists. So whether it is women who are in the security forces or women in business, I'm just saying that we started by talking about space, and how we exist within space is part and parcel of gender. And that because of gender, there are certain kinds of experiences, whether you want to throw fear in that, as a consequence of space, that we have to consider. I'm saying they're real things. We're not making them up. They're not in our heads. And I hear you, Mazola. I hear you, David. I hear you talk about fear. But to be honest with you, there are some kinds of fear that we actually have to have in order to survive. I don't want to jump to current affairs. Like it's not about being sensational. The fact is that there are just ways that men and women exist in space that's different. And whereas you can come to Jamaica, David, and in pursuit of Pieces of Jamaica Part 2, and jump out of your car just about anywhere to take a photo, there are a couple of things that we women would have to consider. And likewise, Mazola, before I could commit to living in somewhere that is extremely remote, there are a couple of things that I would have to consider as well. I'm just saying that we should be aware of some of these things, that it doesn't make the woman better. It doesn't make the artist better. It doesn't make the creative work better. It's just that we should be aware of them. And on that point, as we speak to... Okay, go ahead, David.
No, I was going to tell you, I completely agree with what you're saying, you know. But what I really just want to make sure that you understand that what I'm saying is that people see me as an idiot without fear. Meaning, a lot of why I'm able to do what I'm doing is, yes, gender. I've said it before on this panel that I believe I'm privileged. Absolutely. I'm not privileged from being a man. I'm privileged from being light-skinned. I'm privileged from many things. Male being one of the main ones. But I'm also privileged to lack fear. And the lack of fear has allowed me to do things that other men and other artists and other practitioners of life will not do, because I've made a conscious decision that I don't mind if I die. I am being foolish, but I'm also being productive by losing that fear.
All right, thanks, David. I get you. We can agree on that. And as we move forward, just to wrap up, the purpose of the event today is really to contextualize environment just to situate that within the specific challenge and threat of climate change, and to look towards solutions. And all of us here are creating works of art. And I wonder, David, and I'm going to start with you, the extent to which we carry this in our consciousness when we go out and we are creating. So for example, let me ask you a very specific question, David. On the cover of your Pieces of Jamaica book, if I remember clearly, it was a young boy jumping off into the blue hole.
Right.
Right. And so when you come to Jamaica, you take these very picturesque images. If, for example, you were to come back in pursuit of Pieces of Jamaica 2 and the blue hole was dry, would you still be moved to photograph that? And would that be the cover of a book?
Well, I love the question. I am going to say it likely would not be the cover if it's dry. It's a very, very, very interesting question, because as the artist, I had no desire to put that picture on the cover of the book. I actually wanted something that was much more along the lines of what inspired me to do the book in the first place. But the publishers made that call and said, this is what will sell the book. Forget what you want to make as your statement, but this is what we need to do to make it commercially successful. So I just want to make it clear that, yes, even though I agree with you, it would not be the cover if the place was dry, and it would be a completely different effect. It wouldn't be because of what David Muir wants. It is really because of what the people with the let's just call it the savvy as to what will sell and what would be more appropriate for people wanting to spend money on that book. Because again, I would not have, in a million years, I would not have chosen that cover image for myself.
Right. I figured it would not have made the cover of
it would not. Yeah,
next book.
You're right.
And I think it's sad because I feel that it might not sell Jamaica to tourists, but it might actually inspire an awareness of the environmental damage that is being wreaked on the environment. And so I do believe that there is space for art, for artistic works that can capture the environment as it is in order to bring awareness to some issues. And I'm just going to allow Yashika, Mazola, and Live Child to respond to this, the artist as activists. When we go in pursuit of inspiration and we turn to the environment, are we still able to take what we see, even when it is not picturesque, and to use that in advancing a case for environmental sustainability? Yeah, I'll start with you.
It is possible to do that. What is interesting from David's example, and I think it happens for many of us, is that we are driven to celebrate. So capturing what is beautiful, what is remarkable, what is outstanding about us, and sometimes that's not even the things that we celebrate are not necessarily the standard things that are beautiful. Sometimes they have a little chip on it. I mean, I've seen the Pieces of Jamaica book, like everything isn't pristine, but it is both in the way it is captured and what seems like David's eye in seeing something remarkable there anyway is useful. What is interesting too is your perspective on the empty blue hole. Like that is a useful statement for the artist to make. What has happened here, what is going on. So we might understand a particular work to be for commercial purposes, and it's not, as possibly political as other works. But I do agree with you that there is room to do that, to point to what has taken place, and that could be useful for us as artists to do, and that people do in varying ways.
I want to respond briefly, Ashika, just to say this. Pieces of Jamaica, when originally positioned and shared with the powers that be in Jamaica, was soundly rejected as a non-useful piece of work. It has since been accepted and somewhat revered. It's sold out in Jamaica completely. But the funny thing was, when they first saw it, it didn't show Jamaica the way people were used to seeing Jamaica promoted. It didn't show tourists on the beach. It didn't show uptown people doing uptown things. And I got a lot of flack and a lot of fight because it didn't show what people wanted to see. But I didn't have the ability to reject the cover choice by the publishers. So even though I selected all the images in the book, it didn't fit the order I would have presented them, but it's still all my work and all that I presented to be published. So there's a give and take in it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that, Yashika and David. Mazola, I'm going to allow you just 2 minutes to respond, and then Live Channel will wrap up.
As I said before, is that yes, I use all these things that I pick on the road, but the things have to call to me. I can't just go picking stuff which doesn't make any meaning to me. But there is also another more deeper meaning on using found objects, of objects that find you. Because as I said before, the environment and you is one. We say Mother Earth, 70% of Mother Earth, more than 70% is water, and so are you. So if you can take that connection, you have to think of how you can treat your mother well. Many people can kick their father around, but they can't kick their mom around. And so if we would look at it from that point, if somebody would see my work that I'm picking stuff and using it, giving it more life, because the art that I do will live forever unless you decide to break it up. While the sculptures came from a refrigerator that had been thrown away, it had been discarded. But for me picking it, I am actually picking myself, because there's a time in my life I thought I was discarded. Not that I didn't have a family, but I felt that I was discarded. It's a long story. So in actual sense, I'm healing myself. And I'm sure by healing myself, others can be healed. And we need to be able to look at the environment just like as your neighbor. If you had a refrigerator and you just kick it around, it's very easy also for you to kick your neighbor and tell them all the bad words. But if you treat that well, if you are going to dispose of it, now I find where I live, there are people, whenever they get something, they know, oh, Mazola can use this. So they don't throw it away. They will give it to me. And some people call me garbage man because you can find me in your garbage, digging to get stuff. And, but it's all, some people write, oh, from trash to treasure. No, it's not from trash to treasure. It's a very philosophical thing. But that's very personal. And I think if everybody would do the same, just like the way the government banned the use of what do you call them? The garbage bags and whatever. We still have garbage bags, but the bigger ones. So the smaller ones, we even call them scandal. You can imagine, scandal bag. So if we look at it, because words are very powerful, we call it scandal bags. Yes, yet we are still using them. So we need to look at it deeper that way.
Thank you, Mazola, Live Child.
Yes.
What I could actually add to it, let's see. So, we could use this. We have this term in Jamaica, so another man garbage is another man wealth. And sometimes there's the very beautiful things about your environment, just like maybe for me as a jewelry designer and also an artist. Like anything for me, I could use it to just create something very beautiful in jewelry. So nature itself speaks a different language to our thoughts, to our mind. And a part of that is just offering that healing aspect. So sometimes you have to just put that natural healing aspect from nature and just give it back towards life itself. And that's just it.
Thank you. Well, I've gotten the wrap-up signal from the folks here in studio, and I want to thank David, Yashika, Bazola, and the Live Child for joining me in conversation as we unpacked issues in heart, the S is silent, culture, and environment in creative expression. I want to close with a quote by Simon Blackburn, who is a professor of philosophy at the University of Cambridge. And he said, "A single photograph may have done more to halt the Vietnam War than all the writings of moral philosophers of the time put together." And as artists, I'm going to leave us with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue watching EcoJam 2021, Enviro-Art Forum. You will next see Mr. Owen Blacker Ellis as the host when we resume. Thank you.
Inside and outside.
Yes, it's EcoJam 2021, brought to you by students doing a course called Art, Culture and the Environment here at the Edna College of the Visual and Performing Arts, School of Arts Management and Humanities. So the students have put together this event, this package, this Enviro-Art Forum, and they've taken us through the significant issues that relate to spaces, Cockpit Country, Blue Mountains, with talks from Hugh Dixon and David Walters. And they've gone deeper into a kind of a conversation around heart and art and environment and how gender intersects, our cultural norms around gender, how those impact how we treat the environment, or how those impact how the environment is understood by us. And I want to now get into a broader, deeper look at the context within which all of this should make sense for all of us as Jamaicans who live on this wonderful island that still faces issues with environmental degradation. And how can we all play a part in protecting the environment? Let me ask you, what's your size? In other words, how big is your carbon footprint? What are you doing personally to ensure that we play a part in protecting the environment? Whether as an artist or just somebody who's living, how are your daily cultural, traditional habits impacting the environment? And now, as the environment fed into how we create art as creatives, you just saw a performance called Nice and Clean, a nature-inspired performance brought to you by the Remarkable Arts Performing Arts Company. And it's now time to hear from our keynote speaker to give you that deeper, broader look at the context within which all of this makes sense. She's Diana Macaulay, a fierce and fearless defender of the environment and also a brilliant writer. You have to read her book, Gone to Drift. Oh my goodness. Really, really brilliant writer. And she's managed to creatively and effectively incorporate environmental concerns and issues in her work in a very creative way. It's not preachy. You get lost in a story that also asks you to think about how we treat the environment. Diana Macaulay is a Jamaican writer and environmental activist. She's a founding member and director, retired CEO of Jamaica Environment Trust, JET. For the past 30 years, Diana has led a wide range of efforts to educate Jamaicans on the importance of our natural environment, as well as organizing campaigns to protect the island's special places and filing groundbreaking legal action to build environmental jurisprudence in Jamaica. She is without doubt able to share with you her unique perspective on the environment, on art, culture, and the environment here at EcoJam 2021. Let's now share and hear from Diana Macaulay.
Well, good evening, everyone. Black Ahai. It's good to see you again, even in this way, which is not the same. I'm going to share some, hopefully, because I'm a bit technologically challenged, but I'm going to share my screen and show you some pictures, because it's hard to talk about the environment without pictures. But I really I was almost going to abandon the pictures and just talk from my heart, but I thought let me at least start with some pictures. So let's give it a try. So can you see that? Okay, so I'm hearing a lot of interference. Are you all hearing that? Okay. So I have this, what I call the sky is falling talk. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just do my regular, the sky is falling talk. And this is the first slide of my sky is falling talk, which is an effort to really say there's a real big problem that we have not paid enough attention to over decades, not just years, but decades. And this is something I think anybody who lives in Kingston will remember, a 2015 Riverton dump fire, where the smoke was so, it reached over most of Kingston. So almost 1 million people who live in Kingston were affected. And of course, the people who are most affected are the ones who live closest to the Riverton dump, which we all participate in because we are all expecting that the waste we produce magically gets itself there. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not gonna talk about, I'm not going to give my standard, the sky is falling talk, but I'm going to talk a bit more personally since I've been at this a long time, 30 years. And I want to talk to you a bit as a Jamaican and what is it that has animated me both as an activist and as an artist, as a writer. Now I figure you're not all on the chat, right? But you're mostly watching on YouTube. But I wanted to ask if anybody knew where this picture is. And hopefully that as I went through the rest of the talk, I could see how many people thought it was hair. I'm not telling you it's in Jamaica, it could be anywhere in the world, or who thinks it's hair, and if they think it's hair, where exactly it is. So Blacka, that's not possible, right? Right, so this is sort of where I stand, me, Diana, how this happened for me. And I thought I'd start with this tree that's on the left-hand side of my screen. And this is a tree in my garden, my recent garden, not my 30 years ago garden. And it's not a Jamaican tree, it's a Brazilian tree called jabuticaba. The Brazilian people call it ribena tree because it has these purple berries, right? And yesterday morning, the reason why I didn't made it into my skies falling, my non-skies falling talk, is because yesterday morning when I woke up, this is what the tree looked like. And it had all of these blossoms, some of the berries just starting to come, and then these purple berries, which I know because I've been living here for a while, I can eat, right? The skin is a bit sour, so you have to do a lot of work and peel them, but the inside flesh is very sweet, like almost like a grape. And along with this this new thing, and you'll see the berries are on the trunk of the tree. Along with this, there was a new insect, quite a big bug, a big black bug that I probably wouldn't have been overjoyed to see in my house, that had come and was pollinating these blossoms. And I had never seen this insect anywhere in Jamaica, not in my house, not in any other place I've lived. And so I sat there for a while thinking, how did it know? How did it know this tree was blossoming this morning and come from wherever it was to, get the benefit of the blossoms and then leave? It had gone by about 9 o'clock. There were none of the big black bugs around anymore. And I say all of this about this very insignificant tree in my garden to explain part of where I stand, and that is that these things in nature have always fascinated me and not aroused in me awe and respect and a wish that they should continue, that the black bug should be allowed to pollinate the blossoms on this tree, and perhaps I will benefit from that because I'll eat the fruit. And I want to say before I go to my activism that I'm never speaking about the environment to somebody who does not know where their next meal is coming from. I think this is a mistake that we've made in some of our communications and how they have been received. Because I want to say clearly that if I was starving and I didn't know where my next meal was coming from, I would probably eat a turkey if that was my only option. So I think for those of us who have been moved to speak out about the natural environment and to try and point out its great value to us as human beings. We are people who stand in privileged positions and are not in the place where we are not sheltered, we are not housed, we have enough to eat, We have a reasonable sense of security. Much I was listening to your earlier discussion about violence and women and men in Jamaica. And so I want to say that that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to people who are not in a very difficult situation in life. So this is one of the early parts of my journey, which was trying to clean up Helcher Beach. As a teenager, as a young woman, I went all the time to Helcher, and I just became increasingly more concerned about the careless way we looked after it and the garbage that I was seeing everywhere, and organized this cleanup that you see. And that's kind of, to give you a very, very great deal of shorthand, how it started for me. So it started for me with my sort of natural awe of nature and my understanding of how extraordinary it is. And the thing that sort of lives in my heart, which is that activist impulse, that communication impulse through my writing that wanted me to do something about it, speak about it. And before I leave this slide, I'll just point out what Helcher Beach looked like in 1993, which is, for those of you who go there now, it looks very, very different. And that is all very largely man-made, the problems there. Different people, however, it's not all the same actions, and not all originating here in Jamaica, because Helcher is being affected by climate change as well. But all of it is human caused. So this now is moving from me to you about why we should care. And I'm just going to run through these things quickly, because the important thing about what these natural resources provide for us is in the first line, that it's free. We don't have to pay for it. We don't have to build a desalinization plant in Jamaica to process seawater, as Cayman does, Grand Cayman does, because they don't have supplies of fresh water. Here in Jamaica, we have all these natural resources that provide us these various services for the forest, the oxygen, the soil, the underground water, for the rivers, the water for ourselves and our crops, and all the animals and plants that live in rivers, for the coral reefs and mangroves, vital protection from storms, which are becoming more frequent and more intense. Habitat for fish, we all like to eat fish, they have to live somewhere. And if they don't have anywhere to live and breed, they will die out. The mangroves, which we call swamps, and remove, dump up, try to build there. They are land builders, filter the runoff from the land, control flooding, and provide this habitat. A lot of the fish we like to eat and marine organisms we like to eat have a juvenile stage in mangroves. And the seagrasses, which we hate to step on, and not madly keen on it either, but provides this very important function of sand production, stabilizing seagrasses. The things that we hate, don't like, the pollinators particularly, the bats and the snakes, these all also give us these functions. And there's my little thing across the bottom is relating some of these things to money, which is important to some people. Most people, $1 trillion of crop sales depend on animal pollinators. Outside my front door, pear tree is blossoming. And I know that pear tree is relying on the bats that I see at night to make sure that I will benefit and the people who live near me will benefit from the pears that we all love. So, but I want to say it's not only about the money for me. And in fact, as I've gone through this journey, I have felt differently now as I did than compared to how I did in the beginning. And I would say that I have come to the position that these things, these attributes that nature has, they have their own intrinsic value that is unrelated to their value to human beings. And they should arouse our respect and our care and our stewardship. So even those animals that we don't like and perhaps are even harmful in certain circumstances, they are still important for this grand creation that we call Earth. Hoping to have a chat. I was hoping that someone could tell me what these two very different creatures have in common. And I will just say what it is. I'm hoping people watching know and are shouting at their screens. But these two different creatures that live on our coral reefs are both herbivores. They both eat the algae that can and has covered Jamaica's reefs and killed the coral. And the algae is a marine plant, and it grows because of runoff from the land. Just like fertilizer in your garden, we are fertilizing algae in the sea. And these two very different creatures, one we like and want to eat, and the other one we don't like and would like out of our way when we swim in the water. They are both responsible for keeping the algae down on our reefs. So the way I think about it, or try to talk about it when I'm not being an artist, when I'm being an environmental activist, is that these things that our economy and our society nest within the environment. And I've come to dislike the word environment, although I've used it a lot over 30 years, because I think it's a bit of a distancing word and it means different things to different people. So I prefer these days the word nature, which I think has is more universally understood by all of us. You know, those plants, those animals, even plants and animals that we know very little about. If I was to throw up here some of the main logos that we're all familiar with, I figure everybody in my audience could identify them. But if I was to throw up a few insects and trees, probably not many of us could. So I think all of our support systems, our economy, which is important, our society, how we relate to each other, all nestle inside nature, and we are dependent on nature. Often you'll see in the newspaper that if you are an environmental advocate or activist, you're anti-people and you're anti-development. So these are some of the people that I've worked with over the years, and they are real people. And the man at the left and the woman at the right are both fishers, and they were people concerned about the loss of their fishing grounds when it seemed like the Goat Islands project was going to go ahead. They're married, and the one on the right, the woman, she's the only registered female fisher in Old Harbor Bay. The one in the middle, and I'm not calling their names because I haven't really reached out to them to see if, you know, naming them is okay. I don't think they'd mind, but, you know, I'm trying to be respectful. The one in the middle was concerned about, he lives near to the quarrying out in St. Thomas, near Carib Cement and other people quarrying to make blocks, and was concerned about his own public health and the public health of his children. The little group at the bottom is a group of kids that we took on a hike up in Hollywell. And the man with them is a chaperone from the school they were taken from, who lives in the inner city, teaches in the inner city, and is concerned about the lack of opportunities for inner city youngsters to experience nature. The other two at the bottom are both farmers. The one concerned about the impact of bauxite mining on his farm, and the other one about the impacts of drought. So it's not really, talking about the environment I don't stand in a position where I am for the environment and against people. I stand in a position where people, we Jamaicans, all of us, need these gifts that is so freely provided by nature to us, some of which we only imperfectly understand. So now I'm going to swing into my Sky is Falling talk and essentially try to convince you that this is a very serious situation. We don't stand in the place where, you know, perhaps the Taino came when they first journeyed to these shores, or even the place when the first Europeans came to Jamaica, or even in the place where my grandparents, my grandparents were faced with living here. We stand in a place where we have lost a lot already. And I'm going to start with forests. We have different kinds of forests, and I cannot begin to hope to cover all the various aspects of Jamaica's nature and natural environment. But we have these many different kinds of forests, and there's only about 9% of the original montane forest left in Jamaica. And that is a closed canopy where the trees touch, found in Blue Mountains, Cockpit Country. We have about 30% of sort of regenerated forest left, so not the original forest, but some kind of disturbed forest, and that's it. This is a satellite picture of Jamaica, and my sort of line drawing is a bit bad, but I think you can see that inside these red lines is a darker green. And this is what shows you about how much of the natural forest is left. Well, Jamaica often looks very green, you know. Sometimes it's grass and sometimes it's bamboo. And my own position on this is we've lost so much natural forest already that not one more stick should fall. Not one more stick. This is rivers, land of wood and water. We say that easily, but we actually treat our rivers very, very badly. And few of them look like this, the Rio Grande, where, you know, the sort of the bank sides, the so-called riverine environment, riparian zone, are kept naturally. This is what we'll do to our rivers. We'll channelize them, we'll turn them into gullies, and we'll make them into things that are largely dead, that only flow in very heavy rain. The normal behavior of a river is somewhat like what you see the Rio Grande doing here, you know, curving across the land. And this is why living close to them is not a good idea. But we have over, you know, 300 years or more begun to channelize our rivers and transform them into this. And if we do this, we will not have living rivers. We will have gullies and channels that just take stormwater into the sea when it rains. This is a river in where the Goat Islands project was going to go. And this, again, is what a healthy river should look like. And then this is Black River, where we take out all the vegetation on the side of the river, which often leads to the river banks collapsing and more flooding. Because you can see that how some of this vegetation is going to prevent the water from spreading as far as what will happen here. We don't have any comprehensive data still for how much mangroves we've lost and how much is left. But we know that each square kilometer of mangroves is valued at between $200,000 and $900,000 US, mostly in flood protection from storms. Many of us don't swim. Definitely many of us don't scuba dive or snorkel. And so many of us have never laid eyes on a coral reef, and we're not sure why we need to care about them. But 43 million of us in the Caribbean depend on coral reefs, and we have very little left of our live coral cover. This is what a live reef looks like, and there are not many reefs around Jamaica that look like that. Remember I told you how the algae would grow over the reef? So algae cover used to be about 4%, it's now about 92%. And this is what a completely destroyed coral reef looks like. I don't think it's in Jamaica, but I have forgotten where this picture is unless it's captioned. We love to eat fish, and since the 1940s, our waters have been described as the most overfished in the Caribbean. If we were in a room together, I would ask you what's wrong with this picture, and what's wrong with this picture is the very small size of the fish that have been caught by this fisher. You know, if we don't let the fish grow to a size where they reproduce, where they have babies, then that is a really quick way to make sure that we don't have healthy stocks of fish. So we have, any fisher that you talk to now will tell you it has become too hot to go outside in the day. And so everybody works at night and sleeps in the day. And think about, for the next few days as you're going about your business, I want you to look around you and see how much of our lives takes place outside. You know, people walking, people selling, security guards, policemen, markets, road construction of homes, farming. A lot of our lives takes place outside. And imagine a world where it became too hot to go outside. And this is not extremely far-fetched. So Jamaica is not, we as a small island state, we are not a main contributor to this problem, where we've actually affected the entire atmosphere of the world, and it is subjecting us to these more intense storms, probably more droughts, heavier rainfall, but we are going to be disproportionately affected by it. And so I feel our response to this so far has been entirely unsuitable for the level of catastrophe that it is. And then turning now to us personally, how our own actions affect Jamaica, our home place, the place that we easily say that we love. we're very careless about it. And that is in our own personal impacts, particularly how we use and dispose of waste. So, one of the programs that Jet was involved with that I really enjoyed and thought was successful was Nudity Up Jamaica, and to try and convince us all that we have a responsibility not to just throw our waste by the side of the road, because it ends up either in a gully, which means it ends up in the sea, or if it is being collected, it's taken to a dump which is poorly managed. All our dumps are poorly managed. And from time to time, this is what happens to them, which have very severe public health impacts. And my Sky is Falling presentation ends up here. That this has happened to a sister island, that we've in fact removed all the forest, all the animals, all the plants. And when there is heavy rain, the flooding that in this kind of scenario is devastating, is life-threatening, and results in loss of property, loss of life, and just complete devastation of an island home that's not far away at all. So I'll stop there, and hope that was one thing I want to say about being an artist. When I first started this work, I put a lot of emphasis into being accurate. So I did a lot of study about environmental issues, which is why I can talk, somewhat easily about the environment. And I was very concerned with knowing everything. And 30 years later, so if you had watched me talking to you, in 1995, I would not have started where I did with this sort of amazing aspects of nature. I would not have been trying to appeal to your heart. I would have been trying to appeal to your head. I would have been speaking about the costs of the way we're treating the environment and how serious the situation is. But now, 30 years in, this is where I think this is the role of the artist, right? The role of the artist is to speak to people's hearts, to get them to feel something, not so much to think something, but to feel something. And if I could restart my journey again, I would have been more concerned with reaching out to people's feelings, to ask them how they felt about the place where they were born, perhaps, or some landscape. You talked about Blue Hole in a panel before this. Have anybody been there? How did they feel when they were there? How would they regard it being mashed up? What do they think about the mountains that we can see from so many parts of Jamaica? Or did they have recreational experiences in rivers, in the sea? And I would really have tried harder, I think, to have reached out to the feelings that we have in our heart about our homes, our desire for a home, for grounding, for loving the place in which we live. And so as an artist now, I'm more concerned with that. I'm more concerned with feeling than knowing. And I hope that that's something I will encourage you all as artists, to reach deep inside you for the feeling, for the awe, for the amazing attributes that this island that we live on still has. But we have not been worthy stewards, and we have got to do better than we have done in the past. So thank you for inviting me here. I hope you found that worthwhile. It's hard not to see people's faces, but that's where we be.
We have not been worthy stewards. Those words by Diana Macaulay echoes with me and certainly resonate with what we've been talking about this entire day on the EcoJam 2021. We have not been worthy stewards of our wonderful island home, Jamaica. And throughout the day, we have seen how our personal practice can have global impact on our environment. Thank you so much, Diana Macaulay. I want to encourage all of you who are watching, listening, to check her latest novel, Daylight Come. It is really a wonderful story, but speaks in a very poignant way about environmental apocalypse. And now we're gonna have one last event, and this time to actualize the intention of the students to really reduce carbon footprint and really proactively impact the environment, they'll now hand over to the college some trees that we've been able to access through the forestry department in supporting their drive to plant more trees. So we now invite Kerry Chen to present to our principal, Dr. Julian Barrett, a tree from EcoJam. Trees! trees!
More than threes, we have some trees. Dr. Barrett, on behalf of the Arts, Culture, and Environment course, I would like to share a few seedlings. Some of them are pui, mahogany, Spanish elm, and poor man's orchid. And there is another flowering plant, very bright yellow flowering plant. And this is our small but meaningful attempt to reduce our carbon footprint here at the college. And we hope that this is something that we can practice year after year. And Edna Manley will become a low carbon footprint institution.
Good afternoon, all protocols observed. I just really want to say thanks. It's really an honor of mine to accept this wonderful token on behalf of the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. I use this opportunity to also commend the Arts, Culture, and Environment class for spearheading this initiative led by Mr. Owen Ellis. And by extension, I just want to say kudos to the entire SAM team for lending your voices to the important conversation on the ways that the arts and the environment may be better explored to ensure that we play our part in eliminating environmental degradation. The conversation is important, and I want to big you up for not only talking the talk, but walking the walk by handing over this gift to us. I'm very excited. I love trees, and so I'm really looking forward to the way that this will just help to just further aestheticize our environment. So kudos to the team on a job well done. I was able to tune in earlier before the internet started to get wonky, but the little I saw was really good, and I just want to commend you, and I look forward to future initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Principal. And for the first time, I feel like I'm tall again. Thank you so much. This is EcoJam. The students have conceptualized and curated the event, and they've done a pretty good job, I think. So we just want to say thanks to some people. Say thanks to Dr. Keener Senior, our Dean, the students, Gavin Gatti, Kerry Chen, Jada Hamilton, Danique Malcolm, Shamar Howell, and Daniel Kemp. So to thank the multimedia service department of Edna Manley College. Oh my goodness. Jesse, Kamal, thank Daniel, thank Life Child, Yashika Graham, Mazula Mashagadi, Diana McCauley, Dr. Julian Barrett, of course, and we'll also remind you all that June 8th is World Ocean Day. I want to encourage our friend Ryan Caruthers and his initiative, Ocean for Everyone. Follow them on IG and support World Ocean Day, June 8th. And also, April 22 is Earth Day. So Earth Day in April, Ocean Day in June. And do your part. Reduce your carbon footprint. Plant some trees. Respect the environment. And stop tossing litter wherever you want. Let's keep ourselves attuned to the wonder of nature and protect the environment. This has been EcoJam 2021. Did I forget anybody? Of course, the entire class, art, culture, and the environment. Good job, students. Now it's time to grade you. Bless you. EcoJam. See you next year for EcoJam 2222. 2022. Yeah. Good job, guys. You can go back to